everyone to Canon, Costa Mesa. Well excited. We've been fighting the rain all week and the clouds parted. The sun came out for this amazing wedding photography panel. And I, so lucky, am able to fill in for the person who was supposed to moderate. Actually, I gave him a germ in his soup yesterday, so I could do it. So I'm quite excited. So my name is Amy Kwadler, and I have been with Canon USA on Wednesday 27 years. Unbelievable to think that kind of longevity. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I have over a 40-year career in photography. I have a degree from Massachusetts College of Art in photography, so I'm very excited to be able to be in the room with talented photographers as yourself and the 4 panelists tonight. So before we begin, I always like starting the program with, how many of you is it the first time being at Canon Costa Mesa? Excellent, love seeing new faces, it's great. And how many of you are full-time working photographers? Excellent. And how many of you are very serious weekend warrior photographers? Yay! You're the smartest people in the room. Don't give up your day job. And how many Canon shooters do we have in the room? Yay! Thank you very much. And how many of you are CPS members? Good. And the ones that aren't, you should sign up online tonight, because the man at the end will be able to help you. Chris Canada, you might all know his name. He's been with Canon a long time as well. So I would like to start by asking the panelists, each of you, to introduce yourselves and how did you come to wedding photography? So we'll just go down the line here. So,
sure.
Thank you.
I'm Pye Jirsa. Me, Justin, and Chris, we've been brothers for a long time, brothers from different mothers. And we started Lineager's photography about 8 years ago. We left Ernst & Young. We were former CPAs. And then shortly after that, we started SR Lounge, our educational site.
Just curious, do you do your own taxes still?
Since we quit, we never did our own taxes.
Okay.
We paid, yeah. That's why we became photographers.
I understand. I'm Vanessa Joy. I'm a wedding photographer from the New York, New Jersey area, and I got started. My mom was a photographer, and naturally I rebelled and wanted nothing to do with it. And then high school, I ended up taking a darkroom film photography class and fell in love with it and haven't left it since.
I'm Ning Wong Studios. I do photo video. My start was 6 years ago. I got laid off, and I was engaged to my beautiful wife over there. And I just bought a house, and I got laid off a month later after I moved in. And I was doing photography on the side, and then I came home. I told her what happened, and she's like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "Well, I'll find a job. Let me play video games for a week, and then I'll find a job." And then she says, "What do you really want to do?" And I said, "I want to work for myself." Because it didn't feel good to be laid off. It didn't feel good to invest all this time in this company, and kind of changes were happening. So with her blessing and with her financial help and everything help, emotional help, she let me be a photographer. And here I am 6 years later. So it's all because of her. So. I'm sweaty, sorry. It's my thing.
Last stuff to follow. So I kind of have the same story. I went to college for photography at Cal State Fullerton and graduated, did an internship with a wedding photographer, totally fell in love with weddings, and so I wanted to do weddings, but I didn't really have the stability to do them. So I did a desk job for about 7 or 8 years after that, and then I got laid off. And I'm here now 2 years later doing it full time because that's all I had to fall back on. And luckily it's been working really well for me. So, Amy.
So I will be asking a lot of questions, but don't you worry. I will be asking you, the community, to open up the floor to questions as well. So I'll start a little bit. I'll bring it out to you guys and then bring it back here. So tell me, what is, now it isn't in any order, it just kind of came to me, so we'll be going back and forth about inspiration, creativity, about business, and so I'm gonna start with, what is unique about you and your brand? So share about that type of the background, why you chose wedding photography, what is your signature, what is unique about all of that? Start with you.
Tough question, and I get to sit right next to you, so
I
I'm the
know,
first person.
yes, you've got to, and then Oana's gonna be the luckiest.
Yeah, she gets to
Yeah.
think about, I think we should start on that side, every other question.
I know, really, we'll do it on the next one for sure.
So what is unique about our studio? I mean, we started our studio, we fell into this completely unintentionally. We quit Ernst & Young to do a web startup, actually. We'd been working on a web startup for about 2 years, had funding. We had close to $1 million. We had just found our employees. We quit, and 3 weeks later, the mortgage crisis was in full effect in 2008, and our investors pulled their funding. And so we basically went to all of our friends and people and said, sorry, we gotta let you all go. And then it was just me, Justin, and Chris in our apartments trying to figure out what to do next. We did some web design work, had one of our clients, we had very few clients to do web design stuff. It seemed like the next logical thing. One of them asked if we did photography. And I was like, absolutely, hold on, let me transfer my photography division. I put the phone on mute, I just muted the phone, and I was like, Justin, you're the photography division, we're literally in my 1-bedroom apartment. He answered, he's like, this is the photography division, this is Justin. And then he's like, they go, can you guys do the work for the website you guys are designing? And he's like, absolutely, I'll send my best photographer, Chris, out. And then he passes it off to Chris, who then goes out and actually does the shoot, which we completely screwed up. But it turned out well in the end. But we decided we liked that process, not of screwing up, but of actually, we ended up doing the job, and it actually went up onto billboards. Our very first photo shoot went up onto billboards in Compton and Gardena and Torrance. And we thought, this is the coolest thing, and so we kind of said, let's focus on this and actually learn how to take pictures.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
that's interesting. And so when you have this, that vision saying, okay, this is my signature piece, how did that evolution happen? Like you took that, and then where did that spawn next?
So I guess to answer your question, what's unique about us is that we took photography from the business side and learned the art later on.
Gotcha.
We approached it actually in reverse, which was really helpful in a lot of ways because we knew business actually fairly well. And so when we started creating images, we just naturally gravitated towards things that we liked. I mean, we would create different styles. We tried bright and airy. We tried all these different things. And it naturally landed on the kind of images that we liked making, which was epics. And so we kind of focused on that, and it kind of became our signature style.
Great answer. And share with us, Vanessa, how you.
Well, mine's not funny at all, so. Mine, it changes. So I started my business in that recession, that 2008 is when I started. And at the time I was right around that age of all my brides. So my thing that was unique was I was so relatable to all of them. And I got engaged early 2009, so that was unique for me. So that was nice. And then as it evolved from there, then I finally was able to hone in on a style and a brand. And now my brand just represents consistency and represents the luxury brand in my area.
We'll talk about that with business and how we're going to tap into that. Excellent. Ning.
Alrighty. Not funny either, but so my studio, we do both. So I'm a one-man guy. I don't have any employees. I work very full-time. I have a great team that work with me, but I don't have anybody that works for me, like a person, employee. So I do everything by myself. We do photo, video. That makes me kind of unique because, like, when a couple comes to you and they say, hey, do you do videography too? Then I say, of course we do, right? Kind of like that, right? Of course we do. But I'm a boutique guy. I don't shoot a ton of weddings. I aim for a small amount of weddings every year, just because I have things I want to do, like be a dad and be.
You have arrived.
But my style, I'm not gonna lie. Like I look up to Pye a lot. Pye, Ning Jirsa. You guys, everybody here knows who they are, and so their lighting, the way they do things, and I was very inspired when I was starting out. And I just would watch these guys, and that's kind of what I like to do is not like watch people and copy them, but take things and learn them.
You're a stalker.
I live right next to you in the bushes.
Do you want to sit next to him?
But lighting is what I like. I love lighting. I love off-camera lighting, off-camera flash. Just because it takes something different, makes an image, like a daytime image, look totally different. That's kind of like my signature style, I guess, and that we do both is another thing too.
So for me, it was a little bit different. I didn't really have a lot of guidance when I started out running a business part-time, and when I had to go full-time, I decided to just rebrand everything, start fresh, forget everything I had been doing up until then, because up until then I had been trying to just imitate what other people were doing, which was the light and airy look. And that's great if you do that, but for me, I'm just not a light and airy person in general. I'm just typically more darker, more like, you know, I look for a darker look on everything because that's what I'm attracted to. So when it came time to rebrand, that's what I decided to turn all my imagery towards, is to try to get that darker look. And it's worked well for me because now people actually recognize my images as like, before they even know who it is, they'll be like, hey, I saw your photo, I didn't even have to read the caption, and you know, I knew it was yours. And that's like a huge compliment because that means I'm doing something right if, you know, I'm able to be a little bit more consistent and more true to myself. So my brand is me. It's, you know, that's unique because there's only one of me, so.
That's great. So I think we're going on a creative bend, so I'm going to pull my creative questions. So where do you find your inspiration outside of photography? Oana, let's start with you.
Oh, outside of photography? Oh gosh, my 3-year-old keeps me so busy. It's hard to find inspiration anywhere else. It's usually just photography, and then my 3-year-old just takes up everything, every last breath of me. So, you know, I'll shoot him and I'll just get inspired because, you know, he's like got this big old cheesy grin and he's missing a tooth right now. So, you know, it's just adorable. I love it.
That's awesome. Ning, outside of photography?
Yeah, so 2 things. The easy one is always, you know, I have a 3-year-old little girl, and I love being dad, and everything inspires me. We do selfies every day on the other camera, you know. We do selfies and we do pictures and videos and stuff like that. But everything that really inspires me is, this is not to be cheesy, but I've been with my wife since high school.
You got the best answers, dude. Like,
we're trying to make her cry. She didn't cry at our wedding. No, but I've been with her since, we've been dating since 11th grade. Went to the same college. And so I like to think I'm good at knowing what love is, right? And every time we go to a wedding, it's really cool. Like, it's another cheesy answer, but I love weddings because it's fun. Like, you see couples getting married, you see like father-daughter dances, mother-son dances, and all these things. And that's what really inspires me, is just going to these weddings and seeing so much fun and joy and drunken stuff, you know? Those are my 2 answers, I guess.
All right, so I'm going to be really honest with all of you. There's very little that inspires me. And recently, I have had a big problem with this because I've been in a bit of a creative rut and not been inspired by anything. And this past year has been very cookie cutter, and I'm very burnt out from weddings. So that's the honest truth. But what a friend of mine recently told me is, you know, what is it that you do that you zone in? And there's only 2 things that I've ever just kind of lost myself in. One is snowboarding, and I hate the cold, so that wasn't an option. And 2 was the darkroom, where I first fell in love with photography. So now I'm in the process of building a darkroom in my basement, so hopefully I can find that inspiration again.
That's cool. So awesome.
Yeah.
I am very much like you. I get so I think the answer that like you hear the most is I get inspiration from everything,
Yeah.
right? But it's honestly true. Like our community groups and like online groups, a lot of the stuff that you guys are posting to those groups, I find very inspiring, and what I see from Vanessa and Ning, Oana, every one of these images is inspiring. But I find myself still getting into those creative like ruts, especially when you're out shooting constantly. Yeah. The biggest thing for me is getting away from everything and experiencing life, like putting down the camera and just going and traveling or doing something. I love racing my car. I love going and I'll just drive to different places and just get out and stop and actually like, enjoy life for a little bit. And it's the oddest thing, you'll get back from one of these trips and it's like you've listened to some books, you've read along the way, you've taken a couple photos, you've had a great time, and you come back with a completely different perspective. So that's kind of where I recharge.
I would agree too. For me, it's books and travel. Those are the two places where you're looking through new eyes. It's so important. Was it okay for me to answer some of those questions? So when we're on that kind of creative bent, and we're going to start with Ning, why do you feel compelled to create images? You kind of said it a little bit earlier. Why did you choose this career? What motivates you? Why are you creating images?
You know, it's weird, like, my background is very technical. I was an electrical engineer and IT guy, and so it's very technical. I like doing the images, like, that's probably like why I like OCF so much, because it's very technical in terms of like lighting ratios and how it's set up and why your light's there versus right there, and so the nerdy part of me likes that, like the mathy part, I guess, right? But then when you get an image and you're just like, oh man, like I shot that. And your client's like, oh man, I shot that, I want to buy a big print. Like, yeah. But that's, I don't know, that's kind of what makes me want to do this and shoot. And it's fun, and it's being your own boss. It's good and bad, right? But just the business, it's totally different, and you can make your own way. You can, the harder you work for yourself, the more benefit things should come to. So you can make your own way instead of relying on someone else to kind of set your path. You set your own path if you do it yourself.
That way or this way?
Whatever way you want to go.
So for me, as far as creating imagery, it kind of goes back to my college days. My family came here in '91 from Romania, and we grew up poor, and so when I went to college, I was like, I wanted to make a difference in the world, you know, I wanted to like do something really important, and I was like so set on being like a war photographer. And then I'm like, yeah, maybe not so much once I like, did a little bit more research on how dangerous that really could be. But then I did my internship with a photographer in Laguna Beach, and it changed everything. Like, I went to these weddings where their budget was just like insane amounts of money, and I just fell in love. It was like a moth to a flame. And you know, going to these really high-end weddings, I had to like just keep doing it. It was like a crack addict or something, you know? So now I still do them, and for me it goes back to trying to make a difference, because your photography, it's what lasts for generations, hopefully, if, you know, knock on wood, they don't get divorced or anything like that. It's making history in a way, in a small way, you know, local. So just being part of something bigger where you're on their walls for years and years and years to come, and just knowing that it's going to be valued. For me, that's being part of a, you know, small difference.
Lovely, lovely. Vanessa?
Why do I create images?
Yes.
Kind of, other than to make money?
Well, you know what, that's an honest answer. That truly is what motivates you, is the greenbacks,
Yeah.
and
No, honestly, I've always loved photography, and I used to be a Spanish teacher, and I never understood that you could actually make money at something you like to do. So I became a teacher and went to college like my parents wanted me to, and then doing this. And now the biggest thing, one of the reasons why I love it is the reaction from my clients. I love looking at my clients light up. I do this whole thing where I do same day albums the day of the wedding, and I hand them this little 4x6 album, and they're just floored. So that kind of feedback, preferably positive, is why I love creating images for them.
awesome.
I think we fell in love with it too after deciding to go into it. We honestly, why do we create images? Why did we get into it in the first place? I went to WPVI in 2008, and after we created that little campaign, we created that image, and I was like, let's learn about this. And Jess and Chris said, go figure out what we should focus on. I went to WPVI, and it was really funny because everybody would show me their photos in the audience. I didn't know jack about photography. Everyone would show me these pictures, and then I'd see the presenters show me their pictures. I'm like, I can't tell the difference. Like, I'm sure there's a difference, but I can't tell. Like, they all look great to me. But what I did recognize was that the people on stage were really good with business. And so I came back and I said, I think we can make money in this, and it's something that doesn't suck. I'm not going back to accounting. And so we started taking pictures, and then we actually fell in love with the process and the images, and the weddings was natural for us because, like yourself, we love the reactions that you get. And I think Oana mentioned and Ning mentioned that timeless factor. There was meaning to what you were creating, and that was one of the biggest things for us, was that we did commercial photography for a while, and it felt like there was no meaning. You're selling another car, you're selling another, piece of clothing. But with weddings, it felt like there was a purpose to that actually was significant.
Does anybody have a creative, I'll go into the business now afterwards, but does anybody have a creative or inspirational question for our group panels here that's burning inside that you want to throw out there before I go into the business stuff? Yes?
How important is your portfolio?
How important is it, the portfolio? To who?
When you present yourself?
Oh, to our clients.
Great question. So what you're saying is, how are you, after the shoot, that you're going over the work that you shot at the wedding? Is that what you mean?
No, if a client comes and says, let me see your work.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, that kind of goes along with what Pye was saying. When you first start photography, when you don't know anything about photography, you just look at every picture like, oh, those are pretty,
Yeah.
right? Or that one I saw on Pinterest, so it must be good. And
Seriously how it is.
yeah. So it's important, I think, I'm working on that Jersey accent, important to show your work, your experience in your portfolio. It's something I always tell my clients when they come in, you've seen my pretty pictures, that's great, but here, and what you should ask every single photographer is to look through an entire wedding that photographer has shot from start to finish. Because anyone can pull 5 pretty pictures, 10, 20, 50, and put them on your website. But the difference is between an experienced photographer that is comfortable and knows what they're doing is that from start to finish on a wedding day, all the pictures are consistent.
We do the same thing,
Yeah.
because it's a very big, like if you actually ask a client to do that, they will go and ask the photographer they're looking at to do that, and they'll be surprised. And it works really, really well.
Yes, it does.
I would say too, at the beginning of your career, like your portfolio is probably slightly more important than now, but it's never as important as you think it is. Photographers, I feel like, are perfectionists by trade, and so all of you guys are like, I'm not gonna put that in my portfolio because there's like this hair that kind of goes across her face in like this weird way. And I just keep thinking back to like a good photograph is a good photograph is a good photograph.
Yes.
Like think about photography from your client's perspectives. They can't tell if you dodged something incorrectly or if you burned something incorrectly. I think a great portfolio is a great portfolio. It doesn't need to be perfect. By the time you're a few years into it, nobody's looking anymore. Everyone just goes off what their friends say. My friend used you on their wedding and you did a great job, and it's all off of recognition and everything else.
I think that portfolio-wise, like consistency is good. Like don't have like different editing styles. I was guilty of that at first. Like you
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, oh, this photo is awesome. This is awesome. Like sepia, black and white, and
Next
like
process.
HDR. Just keep consistent. If you have someone that you're learning from that you look up to, ask them to review your portfolio with you. Say, hey, can you help me like cut this down so it looks consistent, but looks good, but it also defines what you do, because your shots will be different from your shots versus your shots. And that's what's great about what we do is a client will like you, but they don't like you because they like different styles. So consistency, like all these guys have said, but also having someone to help you cull it down that has more experience would be really good too.
I just want to add, your portfolio is important, but at the same time, your personality is equally important. I've seen some not so great photographers book these high-end weddings because they just have like that sparkling personality, and sometimes that matters more to a bride than that technically performance. Yeah, so I mean, it's like a little balancing act, you know. You can have this amazing portfolio but be like this really awkward introvert where you don't bring that to the wedding but you create this gorgeous work. Or it can go backwards too. You can have like this amazing personality and create this wonderful experience for the client, but your portfolio might not be that great, but it doesn't matter. They'll still book you because you make up for it in other ways.
Okay, so other business questions.
There's one more question, Amy.
Oh, okay, sure.
You guys kind of led into that a little bit. On your creative side, when you do a wedding and, you know, you're positioning the couple a certain way, you have unique backgrounds, you're doing different things, what inspires you or gets that creativity to say, hey, let's do it this way, or let's do something unique where it's not just the ordinary wedding shot?
Well, like for me, I always do the safe shots first, right? Do the safe stuff, make sure, because that's what they want, like mom and dad and They want those safe shots, like, pose them like this and like this, whatever. And then depending on the environment, like if you're shooting somewhere where it's stormy clouds and stuff, and you shoot that environment to match that. If you're shooting like in a rustic like barn, you shoot something to match that. But the posing, I think a lot of us will have go-to poses that we do and the same kind of cues. I'm sure you guys have that too. So to you it might be the same thing, but to your client it's not the same thing. So, my wife was always like, hey, why are they posed the same? Like, well, it's because that's what I like to do, So that's kind of like, the posing is, it's difficult, but learn what you like to do and what matches the environment. It'd be a good start.
And in essence, you want to be a little bit boring because your clients hired you because of the work they saw on your website. You show up and try to get real artsy-fartsy that day and give them something completely different. They're going to be like, oh, what photographer did I hire? And it'll be different. So, like you said, the safe shots, the stuff they expect from you, and then aim to do a couple more creative things if you have time.
Good answers. So, growing your business, what tools do you find most valuable to help that?
Mark, look at me.
Who's first now?
Anybody who wants
I'm
to
still
start?
thinking about it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, Oana, go ahead.
All right, social media is just like the first thing that pops into my head. There's been so many gigs that I booked just because somebody saw it under a hashtag and it's like, oh, hey, we'll go with her. Or, even like reviews, they read your reviews on the venue's page and they're like, hey, let's try her out, and they meet with me and they like me enough to book me. But it's always those oddball ones that like are just like, oh wow, that's really cool. My posting finally works, and I get to rub it in my husband's face that I'm not just goofing off on my phone all day.
Really?
I think to go along the lines with what Oana said, I think this is one of the funniest things. So obviously, everyone's at different phases of their business, and what we do to grow our business at this point is going to be very different from what everybody else is doing to start a business or to run their business or everything. But one of the biggest things, especially when you're getting things off the ground, to have stuff to actually talk about on social media is test shoots. Like actually get out, like if you don't have clients, go and find somebody to take pictures of, go and find a couple, go and get out and shoot, because this is the weirdest thing, is that photographers are like the only profession in the entire world where these professionals will not go out and actually shoot unless they're getting paid. Even if they suck or have no experience. Like, seriously, like nobody, like I only go out and shoot if I get paid. And you're like, dude, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, like every professional athlete, every single person in every other field, including accounting, have to practice when they're not getting paid. Why aren't photographers? So going out and actually putting together your own test shoots that are cheap and inexpensive, it's labor, it's something that you can control, it's just your own effort that you're putting into it, and it gives you stuff to talk about on social media.
And
to that
people to
point,
network with.
Yes, networking.
Yeah, to his point right there is like how do you stay inspired or creative or push the envelope when you're in a shooting environment, when you have all of these practice sessions and you challenge yourself in the environment, then all of those little magical moments are going to happen when you're finding no inspiration in something that's plain. So.
Someone that I look up to, by the way, Joel Grimes, fantastic photographer, amazing guy. In his, what is he, 30 years into the business? I don't know, he's been in this for decades. He knows more about lighting, more about this stuff than anybody I know. And he does test shoots once a week. So once a week he's doing a test shoot on his own, unpaid. And he's 30 years into the business.
As they say, practice, 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 so that's it. What's your tool that you're feeling really is very valuable for your business? Yeah.
So mine right now, and once you've grown your business for a little while, now for me it's finding new ways to be efficient. So creative stuff is great, you have to grow that, but then at the same time you have to grow the nuts and bolts of your business. So for me it's been social media, super important, but I can't go onto Facebook and post and Twitter and then Google Plus and Instagram, so I use Buffer now to schedule all my Instagram. Well, not Instagram actually, that's the only thing they don't do, all my social media. And on the client management side, I'm using 17 Hats that does all of my, invoicing contracts, and they have a system called Ally where now they give me a bookkeeper and a receptionist, someone to answer my phone, emails, everything. So for me, it got to a point where I needed to serve my clients more, and I couldn't do that if I was buried under emails. And by being able to do that and pay more attention to each client, that helps grow my business because then they rave about me and send me clients.
Awesome, great tidbits. Ning?
So, the way I think I kind of made my business step to the next level was a lot of outsourcing. Things that are difficult or that take a lot of time that you feel would be beneficial for someone else to do. One of my partners shoot and edit. They do a lot of the editing stuff for me. I think you're with them too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so what I like to say is, we give them the raw photo, of course, and then they kind of like tweak it, color correct it, post-process a little bit, and then you get back the image and you add your own signature style to each image. That saved me a lot of time because, the things you want to do in your business is, everyone wants to shoot, right? You want to shoot, have fun, and go to weddings or shoot portraits or shoot sports, whatever you want to do. The business part's the hard part, but if you can find ways to be smart and partner up with different companies that can help you learn these things or do these things for you, it's a bit of investment, of course, but at the same time, your time is what's saved, and you can use that to do other things.
Excellent. One?
Sure.
Oh, yeah, excuse me. Another techie question, how are you future-proofing this ever-changing profession? And it doesn't have to necessarily be a technology or piece of equipment or going to a chiropractor, taking care of yourself. How are you future-proofing this changing profession, your business? Ning?
You go first, all right.
You go first sometime.
Well, the scary thing about what, as photographers, you're basically doing a sales job. So every year, your clock resets, and you're like, oh my gosh, who's gonna book me, who's not gonna book me, right? You kind of get scared about that, right? I know you guys are like that too, and it's not fun. The way I kind of future-proofed myself a little bit was I offer more services. So instead of just photography, I started doing video. So it's a good way to kind of get different markets and stuff like that.
You do massages too, right?
Oh yeah. Just on call. But also I'm looking into stepping into doing a lot of corporate stuff too, because as they get older, you want to take it a little easier. But at the same time, you want to try and do different things and manage things better. So that's kind of where I'm looking at to do that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there's no future proofing method, because at the end of the day, we have to just keep hustling and keep working and keep getting clients and asking old clients to refer you and networking and everything. So just trying to go that path is tough, but as long as you kind of do those things, it'll help you keep expanding your business.
Great answer.
I love the thought of adding on additional services. One of the things that we do too is, so future-proofing for us is not focusing on technology with our clients. Because, have you guys seen the 5D Mark IV? I look like an idiot when I shoot with the 5D Mark IV now, because all I do is I look through the viewfinder and I'm like, I like that, I like that. It's literally, these cameras are taking every single part of your job and doing it for you, at least when it comes to the technical side. So what that leaves you with is, as we go forward, it's only gonna get worse and worse. In terms of, if you're relying on the technical components to differentiate yourself, you're completely not future-proofing your business. Everybody else is going to be able to do the exact same thing as you.
Well said.
So
well
what
said.
you can do is focus on the soft skills. What is your client service experience? What are you doing with them when they get into the studio? How are you creating a boutique experience? Similar like if you walk into Louis Vuitton, or if you want to go buy Louboutins, which you have on right now, which are very lovely.
Yes. When your boss is Jessica Bruzy, you gotta pull out the good shoes.
Yeah, I like shoes too, so I'm a big fan of shoes. So, but when you go and you buy something like this, the last thing they're going to talk to you about is features.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They're not going to say, oh yeah, these are silver studded, of course they're using genuine leather. I'm not going to pay $2,000 for shoes that aren't using genuine leather. So if you're focusing on your business on what technical components we do, oh, this is how we light, this is how we do, you're losing out, because everybody's going to be doing that kind of stuff. But if you can sell them on the soft side, then I think you're set for life. Everybody will always come to you to make them look great, to make them feel great. And that's what they're going to remember in the end of the day. When they look at the photo, they could care less of how it was lit. They're going to remember how they felt when you took the picture.
To piggyback off that, I mean, think I don't know, 200 years ago, everyone knew how to make their own clothes and did make their own clothes. Now, we all buy our clothes for the most part. And it's not because we, the transition, they didn't know how. It was because of all the other soft things, the convenience, maybe it being made a little bit better, the options, the colors, and what the experience overall. Just because photography has become so commercialized and easily accessible does not mean it has to affect your business.
Excellent.
I was gonna add on to what Ning was saying at the end about networking. I think that's a huge factor in my business. I know that only because I have a few photographer friends, we kind of bounce work to each other. So if I'm super busy and I just can't handle any more jobs at that point, especially like during the Christmas season when the portraits start coming in and the family sessions, I'll bounce work to her and then she'll bounce work back to me when she's busy and I have a lull. So that's been a huge help, and I mean, it's a good relationship that we have where we trust each other not to steal clients or anything like that, But it's been a help too, where if there's a lull, you get through it, but I can see it going long term too. Plus, you gotta network for the sake of just establishing yourself in this industry. There's so many people out there, planners, photographers, all kinds of people, florists and all that. The more people who know about you and who know they can rely on you, I think the better. And so, long term, obviously it's gonna have its benefits because people are just gonna keep referring business to you. So, yeah, I mean, the only other thing I could think of is just save your money. I mean, it's, for me, it's, just because I've only been doing this full time for 2 years, it's been a learning curve as far as finances goes. So it's, 1 week I'll make $6,000 and then the next 2 months I will make nothing. So I gotta plan ahead for that, but.
And then you have to pay your quarterly taxes.
Right, and the taxes are a pain. Those are not fun, but, you don't necessarily need money to be good at this business. You need a decent camera and a good lens, and I mean, you don't have to go out and buy the 5D Mark IV, as great as it is. You can go with the 5D Mark II, and their service center will just make it work for you. And that's the shameless plug here, but Canon has the best service. They seriously will they care about you in the back room. They want to make you succeed. So if your stuff's broken, they'll turn it around lightning fast. It's ridiculous. But yeah.
On that point, that's literally, our entire studio shoots Canon, 60 photographers, Canon, just because when something goes wrong, we can take it to CPS. And we've shot Sony, we've shot Nikon, we've shot every other brand, and nobody has CPS, which for those of you that haven't used it yet, it's okay, people talk about it like they're trying to sell it. No, it's if you're a professional and your camera goes down, you take it in, they'll give you a loaner while your camera's getting fixed. So it's a ridiculous.
If you're a platinum member, so. But it is the best $300 insurance you could ever ask for. I want you all to go online tonight and sign up for it. So the next one, I want to see
And
that.
if you qualify for platinum, they also let you try out the stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You get discounts if you have to get repairs or
Right.
Yeah.
things done.
Well, just renting a 5D3 for a weekend is $150, right?
It's only a commercial right now.
Yeah. They are not getting paid to be out
Not
there.
worth
They're renting. That's awesome.
It's worth
That's
it.
great.
It's worth it.
Okay, now for the tough question. This one they didn't get before. When was the last time you failed, and what did you learn from that?
Okay, at life or?
Photography life, though.
Is my husband gonna say this? Because I could really talk about it.
Yeah, this is going viral. Oh, excuse me, speaking of that, Canon USA Pro, hashtag Canon USA Pro, and talk about tonight's program, and you'll be on Canon's Twitter feed. Well, let's stick to photography. I think that makes more sense tonight. We're not a
Limit
therapy
the scope a little
session.
bit.
Right. Anybody want to take that one? I know it's a tough
Well,
one.
I'll take it because for me, failing is failing my client. Because I can fail in my eyes, which is pretty much every wedding. I feel like I've failed some aspect of the photography end because we're creatives. We're so critical of ourselves. At least that you all are too, right? Yeah, okay. Just checking. So my biggest failures are always when I've let my client down at some point. And I think the last time I did it was a few weeks ago. And I didn't even fail them in any particular way. I just should have preemptively seen that they were upset about one of my policies. One of them is that I print their complimentary thank you cards once they've approved their album design. I have all these checks and balances to make sure it's not 3 years later when they get their album. And she sent me an email basically, you know, Mom is trying to, you know, she's up my butt just trying to get these thank you cards out, and I'm like, oh yeah, when you finish your album design, don't worry, they'll come. And I should have noticed that that was her asking for an exception. And sure enough, 3 days later, I get an email from her husband, and you know it's bad when you get the email from the husband when you've been communicating with the bride. And of course, naturally, I get it during my 7-year anniversary dinner, and I see it, and I'm like, oh, that's from David, not Megan. Oh no, and I don't read it until I get home later that night. And sure enough, I'm assuming he's a lawyer or a writer because it was like 26 pages. There was a graph in there. And regardless of my policy or however ridiculous the graph was in his email, the point was for me, I felt like I failed my client because I could have easily done one better, and I didn't.
That's excellent. I actually have to say I've had a few of exactly those, and it's really an eye-opener. Yeah, it never happens again after you learn something like that. Anybody else want to chime in?
I'll say something. So this is not the most recent failure, but it's the biggest failure that I think happened in my career. Was a long time ago when I was first starting out. So long story short, I lost some photos, right? Shooting a wedding, and I know it's happened to some people, but I remember this is right before Photoshop World, and we shot a wedding, and the bride's family was from Mexico, and like they flew in for this stuff. And I shot everything, and I was using a 5D Mark II at the time, and my habit was, instead of like copying files from the camera, I would move them, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just save that extra formatting time and like just move them over. And so my thing always is when I come home from a wedding, like my wife will know, like I just want to go to my computer and just back things up. But I was sleepy or something, and I didn't back up something in the in that set. And then what I lost was half of the first look because my second shooter got the other angle, but I didn't get my angle. And then some of the bride's family's photos, like the post stuff. I had everything else. I had a second shooter angle because he always would just shoot that just because he wanted to. So I got that, but they weren't looking at my camera. They were looking at him, they were looking at me. So I remember that. I remember going to Photoshop World, like flipping out, and I had memory cards like with me, and I had my laptop, and I was trying to recover everything that I could. Like I'd go on my computer and like set the software. So I'm back in an hour. See like if it recovered anything, and I looked through all my cards. I couldn't find anything, and I was flipping out. And I was calling like Lexar. I was like, hey, I need help, and nothing. So I get nervous talking about it because it's.
I'm having like heart
Yeah.
palpitations.
So I call the bride. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna pretend that, you know, like some people, it's totally your own thing. But some people say, oh, just don't say anything to see if they notice. I'm like, well, you gotta be up front. Like that's not the way I want to run my business. So I called her and I said, hey, this is what happened, right? And she goes, talk to my husband. And I was like, oh my God. Right? She's flustered. Talk to my husband. Like, what happened? I'm like, I told her. And I was offering all these things right away. Right? I'm like, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll like upgrade everything, and I'll do this. I'll, you know, whatever. So then he gets on the phone and he's like, you know, hey. I'm like, hey, what's up? And I told him what happened. He said, well, that's it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Don't worry about it. I was like the most optimal scenario in the world happened right there. And I'm like, all right, thanks, man. I'll talk to you later. And then, but that taught me like this huge thing about being way better about backing up my files, about workflow, and if you see my computer, it's crazy. I have like a 48 terabyte, like I'm not even lying, 48 terabyte RAID 8, like RAID 5 8-bay crazy tower thing, and I have all these extra hard drives and wires everywhere and stuff, and but that's because of that. So it's a big failure, and I got lucky because the groom was cool. And I think he talked his wife down, but you learn from it, right? Like that, if that happened to you, you're gonna bet for sure next time you'll change what you do. And right now, every time I shoot something, it's on 2 cards, of course, and then the cards go somewhere else. As soon as I copy, not move, copy, the cards go somewhere else secure, and that card doesn't get touched until everything's delivered. You know, even though I have like 4 backups and I have all these other like procedures, but you learn. That was my biggest failure that I feel happened to me.
It's not that bad. It's bad, it's bad. But we've, honestly, I feel like I've gotten really good at failure. I talk about this a lot on social media. Like, failure is like one of my biggest, like with my kids. You know, I was taught as a kid that getting a C is a failure. And I was taught that, you know, like every one of these different things in life, you are a failure. And I believed that growing up, and it actually prohibited me from doing something, like for actually trying. Because if I didn't try, then I couldn't fail. And when I finally learned that like failure is seriously the part of any process worth doing, you are gonna fail. You're gonna fail miserably, nonstop. The only difference is your failures get smaller and smaller as you go, right? So eventually you start, like you said with your weddings, I had one wedding in like 3 years. It was my New Year's wedding where I came away and I was like, I actually took every picture that I wanted to take. And I was like, that's never happened to me before. Like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. But you have these failures constantly, and we've had clients that we've had to refund. But we've always made it right to the best of our ability. I always say this, if you haven't had a client refund, you haven't shot enough. We shoot 1,000 client commissions a year. Around 3 to 4 of them, every single year, we have to do something. Usually it's a reshoot, like usually it's like a portrait session. Maybe an associate shooter or somebody didn't do a good enough job. We'll throw in a portrait session to go out and take them out and do it. But if you think about it you go, oh man, 3 or 4, that's pretty crappy. Like I don't have a single one, but that's among 1,000 shoots. So the percentage is less than 1%. You're gonna fail, and it's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time. So I think the point is, don't flip out. At any point in that process, call them up.
I mean, you will flip out.
You will. Like, when you got that email, you were probably like, it probably ruined your night.
Yeah, my anniversary, but.
So.
Oh, you'll have another one. Oana, do you have one you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, things have been running fairly smooth. There hasn't been any huge failures, but I would say sometimes I fail my family running a business. It feels like it's this baby that you've created and you want to give it all the time and affection and nurturing you can, but sometimes it, takes away from your family time, and it's been a learning curve to try to balance all that out. Just trying to keep things consistent. God bless my husband sitting over there. He knows, it's very hard to put that phone down when it's dinner time or not check your emails when it's time with your kid. And so, that's one of the things that New Year's resolution, take more care with my family than I do with my business, because it's hard. I'm sure long term it could, change lives if you let it take over your whole life.
There's a really good quote. I will wrap that up with. I put in my presentation about off-camera flash, because it's something that I failed at continually for a very long time, and then finally I'm getting better. It's a quote by some guy named Frank something, and it says, if you're not failing, you're not working on big enough problems, and that's a big problem. So when you go to the photography end, if you're not failing at certain aspects of photography, where it's off-camera flash or experimenting with a new lens or aperture, whatever it is, then you should probably be pushing yourself a little more.
Yeah, go and screw up a little bit, guys. Come on.
Just remember to put a CF card in your camera. That was mine. Yes, the film days, my sister had a graduation, and I forgot to put a roll of film in the camera. Never did that one again. Always had the little menu item that says no CF card in camera. It's a good one on the cameras. So we're going to go in that same mode. Are there any memorable experiences that stand out from your career? So especially you guys are working with very emotional times, clients that you can't repeat the photos a lot of times. Obviously engagement sessions, portraiture, not so much, but in weddings. Anything that stands out for you guys, positive or negative?
I remember one, as soon as you said that, this one wedding popped in my head. It was about 4 years ago, and we talked about the importance of what we do and the significance of it, but sometimes you forget. You forget these things as you've done 30, 40 weddings that year, you forget. And this client came up to me at the end of the wedding, and he looked me straight in the eyes, and it was crazy. I remember the moment down to a T, and we were actually filming behind the scenes for education, and after he said it, I was like, did you get that? That was the most amazing thing ever, because this is what he said to me. He goes, Pye, I don't know what to tell you other than you have helped me to understand love and the feelings that I have towards my wife better. He goes, I feel like I have more love for my wife now than I did before you took these photographs. And at first I was like, thank you. Thank you. And he's like, no, you don't get it. He said, no, you don't get it. The love that I have today has been strengthened because of the images that you have created.
Incredible.
And then I turned around and I didn't even say thank you at that point. I just turned around and I'm like, did you get that? Like I was like, wow. And then my camera guy's like,
Yeah.
And then I turned around, thank you.
You can't pay for that. Oh
But
my
no,
God.
it was like one of those
Amazing.
moments where, and since then I kind of try and tell our people just how important the job is, because you forget at times what you're actually doing and what it means to these people, and that was something I never forget.
Well said, yeah, for sure. Do you have one? Vanessa?
I'm gonna think about that longer,
Okay.
or at least not go after him.
Yeah, right. That is a hard one to follow.
So, go for it.
So for me, it was like earlier on when I went full time. One of the first weddings that I booked, I was like fully prepped. I was like, yes, I'm finally full time. I'm a professional photographer. You got this. So I have everything triple checked the night before the wedding. I get in the car, I head over to the bride's house. I ran out of gas about 5 miles from the house. And luckily that night I had a third assistant come for the wedding because I was so nervous about having everything be right. So I'm like, you gotta come pick me up. I can't walk all that way with all this gear. So it worked out, thank God, but that could have been like, hey, can you have one of the bridesmaids come pick me up? Pretty embarrassing. But they never knew. It was like even funner trying to find my car where I parked it afterwards because I didn't think to set a pin in the phone or anything. I was just in wedding mode.
So memorable. I like the father-daughter stuff because I have a little girl, and I see that stuff. They do father-daughter first looks. I'm gonna have that for sure. We've done a couple of those, and it's really cool. But the biggest thing that stands in my mind is this one portrait session. I shoot for a charity organization called Now Lay Me Down to Sleep. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's not for everybody, but it's basically babies who are not going to make it, and they call for a photographer to go to the hospital. I don't do a lot of them because it's not easy to do. But there was one session, very similar. My friend Stephanie back there, she referred me this family because she couldn't do it. The baby was not going to make it, and they're going to induce and do their thing. And then they wanted a family session. So I remember that. And the mom was so happy, like I showed up. And she's super happy. The dad was like chill. And their little son was super happy, didn't know what's going on. But I just remember that because I'm like, dang, like if that was me, I wouldn't be able to like want to do this. But then doing it, she was super happy. There's one photo I have of her, she's just holding her belly and laughing, just having a good time. And that's like in my mind, that's the one photo I still remember. So just remember that, like, you're shooting these things, and it's an amazing experience that you're doing, no matter what you're shooting, but it's the emotion that pulls out of it. No matter where you are, it's a genuine thing, especially when you're shooting weddings, it's love. Or you're shooting other things, like these charity things. That's kind of my most memorable thing that I still remember to this day.
I should have gone after you.
I'll make that fart joke.
So Vanessa, what do you
Fine.
have?
No, we'll go with the fart joke, okay? So my one memorable experience is when the morning of the wedding, which is, by the way, my favorite time in the mornings of the wedding, because that's all the secret stuff. That's the stuff nobody really gets to see except for the photographers. And bride's all ready, her hair's all gorgeous, and makeup, and we're just like, are you gonna put on your dress? And she's sitting there holding coffee. She's like, nope, gotta finish my poo juice. And then I will put on my wedding dress.
Is this really the right time to be having that juice?
That's my new phrase now.
You want to skip a day? We'll pick it up a couple days later.
Yeah.
That's a good
That was
one.
the most unladylike bridal moment.
So let's talk about the wedding day. As you said just now, that your favorite time is the morning. So a couple of sentences about this. So preparation, managing stress, because we all know that you can be stressful, the bride's stressful, they're bouncing your stress back and forth. Do you have a shot list? Does it help you to keep on track? And your equipment, how are you handling all of that? And how many people are shooting? So give us a little walkthrough of your wedding days. You want to start?
I can. So wedding days, it's 3 people, myself, my second photographer, and my assistant. Gear, I shoot with the Canon 1DX right now, every prime lens imaginable, except for that 200-2.0 that I really want so badly. Oh, I know, but it's so beautiful. And then my pro photo lights, and my speed lights too, just depending on the situation that I need, and my same day edit bag. So, yeah, so ton of gear, but I like my gear, and the assistant is key. And as far as managing the day, we do a timeline with them, so that's kind of all washed out. If there's not enough time, we've told them before, so that eliminates a lot of stress because a lot of it is the timing issue. And then the day of, nobody knows if I'm stressed. I just smile away, and that is it. I think that's so important, that wedding photographers especially just know how to smile through stress, because like you said, otherwise it's just gonna bounce around and ricochet like a bullet against steel.
Yeah.
Can I say same thing as her, but 5D Mark IV?
Okay.
You bring an on-site editor to do that same day album?
During cocktail hour or like toasts or something where, one photographer can cover it, I am editing everything myself as far as the photos, and then my assistant will take over, do the printing. I use Blog Stomp, she gets my blog ready, it's a whole mess.
You bring an on-site printer, like a DMP or something?
I do bring a Canon IP100 Pixma printer.
Good plug, good plug.
It's true. I've had the thing for like 6 years.
Those are good,
It's a great
good
printer.
printers.
Yeah.
So the way that I do things is if, let's say a couple books is for photo and video, it's 2 photographers and 3 videographers. If it's a big wedding, we might have an assistant come on. And if you shot with me before, you know I like gear. I have a lot of gear. And so the night before a wedding, my living room is filled with junk everywhere. Batteries charging here, memory cards here, and everything's being prepped. And I have my camera bag, I have my lighting gear, I have my audio gear, I have all these things set. Because if you're not being prepared, is the easy part. Like, there's no excuse not to be prepared. You should have the gear necessary. You should have the tools that you want to use to be successful at your wedding. And having backup stuff is very important. So when we show up, like everyone's saying, stress. You do get stressed on certain situations, but that's ease when it comes to more experience. The more weddings you shoot, the more things you do, the more situations you get involved with, you'll become less stressed because you encounter those, you solve these things. But everything's solvable, unless like something crazy happens, everything is manageable, everything is solvable. You can freak out on your own, like you can like text your second shoot, like, oh my gosh, like what's going on? But like you're like, oh, we're good, But that's really how to be able to handle that part. I think it comes with experience, but also, having a calm presence as well. So like a lot of the grooms or brides get nervous, right? And your job is to like talk them down if you feel they're open to it. Sometimes you don't want to deal with it because they want like mom or they want the bridesmaid or they're just having a freak out bridezilla moment. You just let the wedding party deal with it. But then all the gear, it's fun, but it's a lot of stuff. But that's kind of the answer to my question. I rambled on a bit. But.
That's okay.
I'm a light packer. I have the CPX Canon backpack, and I fill it to the max. That thing's like bulging, like a zit ready to be popped. But everything needs to go back in a certain place. So the night before the wedding, I want to backtrack to a week before the wedding. I sit my bride and groom down. We have a face-to-face meeting, and we go over the timeline minute by minute. So the day of, there's no surprises usually, not for me at least. We know exactly how it's gonna go down, and things might run late, and that's okay, but we've already discussed the backup options for that. And I think that's helped a lot as far as trying to delegate the day of, how it's gonna go, because about 80% of my weddings don't have wedding planners, and sometimes that duty falls on you as a photographer to kind of keep things running along. The morning of the wedding, I'm just a hot mess of nerves. As my second shooter, I usually freak out, panic and everything, and my husband and my child get sent out of the house, and so I can get in the right headspace to where by the time I show up to the wedding and I sort of pick up a camera and everything just kind of melts away. So as far as bridezillas, I don't really have them. I've been lucky enough not to have them, but I think that goes along with, are you a good fit with your bride? You can tell right away if you think they're totally OCD type of personality and you're not, it's probably not a good idea that you do their wedding, and that's
Send
okay.
them to me. I'm really good at the OCD brides.
Right, or vice versa, it's, if you didn't get a wedding, there's probably a good reason why you didn't, and you should be thankful for that, because, you might run into a better fit, and so the day just runs smoother when your bride is getting along with you and vice versa, because it's a huge help as far as nerves and stress, and they know what to expect from you, and you know what to expect from them.
And they
because
trust
get
you.
along. Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Excellent.
my favorite moments during weddings are actually, and you're gonna cringe when you hear this, but my favorite part of the wedding day is formals. I love wedding party formals. I love family formals, because I specialize in editorial family images. So when I like to create family photographs. I feel like they're the most important piece of the entire day. And I like to create images that look like they come out of a magazine. But the reason why I love it is because it is the most stressful part of your day. And we always talk about the calm in the storm. Be the calm in the storm. And that's the one opportunity that you're gonna get the entire time to impress about 50 people by just being yourself and managing. And so this New Year's wedding that we had, and this is a really good trick that I use a lot. So we're shooting, did I just say the trick was really good? I shouldn't say that. This is an okay trick that you can use every now and then.
No one's judging here.
But they wanted this shot, and you might have seen on my Instagram, this is that shot of the bride on the bar with everybody drinking and
Yes.
passed out and stuff.
Yes.
They wanted that shot. So we're in the middle of the hotel. They have 18 people in their wedding party, okay? And I go to the manager, I'm like, can we take a quick photograph? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. He goes, we're setting up for an event for our own hotel event. And I go, we'll be in and out in just a couple minutes. And we start setting up, and he comes over and he's like, you know what, you gotta clear out right now. And I'm managing 18 people and the bride and groom right there. We're trying to get this thing set up, we're trying to get the lights up. And here's what you do in those situations. Don't say anything. He goes, I need you guys to go right now. And I just go.
It was all happening behind you.
And then he was like, well, what do you need? And I'm like, just a couple minutes. And he's like, I can give you 3 minutes. And then he goes, I'll give you 5. I'm like, perfect, I'll be out of here in 5 minutes. Thank you so much. So just if you're just calm and you just let them react, they will literally give you what you want. But if you start acting out of emotion and saying, oh my gosh, are you serious? I can't do this in 5 minutes. I can't do this in 2 minutes. This is what they want. This is what they need.
Yes.
So just let them kind of do their thing. And
Hi,
then
that's a life lesson right there. I mean, I think we should be using that for every
Personal
aspect
reason.
of
works
our
great
lives.
with wives.
Husbands. Yeah, excellent stuff. Okay, so we'll continue on in the business frame of this. What is the percentage of time, and we all know this one and our needs for this, marketing, shooting, and post? Because a lot of people are just getting into it. It's like, oh my God, I want to be a photographer and I can just take all these pictures, and not realizing how much of this other stuff is a part of the equation. So Ning, you can start.
Shooting is so low. You shoot weddings, it's one or two a weekend. I mean 3 if you're lucky, or 4 if you're crazy. Let's say it's 1. So it's 1 out of 7 days you're shooting. And then the rest of the days, what are you doing? Take a day off to chill out. Then you have 5 days left. What are you doing the rest of the time? You're post-processing, right? You guys know, from Lightroom and editing and calling everything. And then you're marketing, you're on social media, you're going to events, you're going to workshops, you're learning. So the shooting is very low, but it's the most fun part, right? It's kind of like the treat you get after you do all the hard work for the week. I don't know if it's really percentage-wise, but that's what I feel it is for me, at least.
Mine is the exact opposite. I spend, and it depending on where you are, in the beginning, it's you do everything, right? And you have kind of how you are, and then I decided that I'd rather be holding a camera, not a mouse, as one of my friends says. And I now, because I streamlined everything, I probably work in my photography business only 2 to 4 hours a week, unless I'm shooting, and then that's 10 hours a day. So I don't know, I'm spending 80% of my time shooting when I'm working, and not 20% on everything else.
Do you do your own culling?
I don't do my own culling, post-processing, marketing, anything else, nothing. Trust people, and I pay people.
Anybody else want to answer that?
Mine's sort of like Ning as far as numbers, but I do all my own editing, and I know that a lot of people don't, and that's cool. To each their own. But I think that, especially when you're first starting out, you're losing a lot of valuable education if you're outsourcing your editing. Just mostly when you're starting out. If you're sending off your images and you just see the final product, you're never knowing that middle ground where, oh, if I had just rotated my camera or cropped that out or, done this, this, and this, which, after you edit your own photos for a while, you start to pick up on those cues. I just think that you can better yourself a lot by doing your own editing. And obviously it depends if you're like a huge photographer that does like 3 or 4. God, I didn't even know that was possible. But to do that many weddings a weekend, obviously you're gonna have to get some help. There's no way you can manage that all on your own. But like for me, I only shoot about like 15 weddings a year, and that's plenty for me. I space them out. I say no to back-to-back weddings unless it's some special thing with family. But typically like I like to space it out, and I enjoy it. I enjoy like sitting there and editing because I learned so much from it. So.
Well, on that point, that's one of the reasons. So what I want to say about post-processing, like you will learn the most about where you suck by post-processing. It seriously is like the best way. So we have a different model. We insource everything. We have a team of about 60. We're shooting about 1,000 different events a year. And we have people that focus specifically on one task. So we have a team of 12 post-processors. So a shooter just shoots and they go out and post. But the shooters have to actually be post-producers before they're shooting. So they have to go through that process because they need to know what the files look like and what it is that they're creating. Otherwise, they're just creating garbage and they don't understand and they never learn and improve. But if you guys are going boutique and you guys are going solo, do what Vanessa and Ning are doing by getting, like your time should be in 2 places. Creating systems for your company, which is getting things out of your hands that are rote, like things that they don't take brain power. I used to think, I did all the post-processing for us when we first started, and I felt like I was getting dumber, like every single day. I literally feel like I'm getting dumber, because I just watch Netflix and post-process. And I go through every single thing on Netflix. So those kind of things you can get out of your hands by creating systems for it or outsourcing it. Focus on what you love, and then focus on the growth. And those are the 2 areas that you should be spending your time. But I do think that shooting is 10 to 20% of your time. 80% should be in other areas.
And Facebook's 50%, right?
Yeah.
What?
Facebook is 50%.
It's always been
YouTube's
50%.
other 50%.
That leads me to the next question, which was 3 back. And so are you working with a team? Do you train the other support staff that you have, or your first shooter or second shooter? And what do you look for in your first shooter or second shooter?
I'd love to hear because you have
He has the
volume,
biggest, yeah.
So it'd be
yeah.
very interesting.
And we'll move it that way, perfect, yeah.
So
yours
from the
is
top
huge.
again, it was,
So
How do we
obviously
find
you are
them?
working with the team, and yes, and how are you choosing that team to go out and shoot? Skill set, vision, personality, professionalism, all that basic stuff, and then are you training them, and what are you looking for?
so we train everybody in-house. They start as actually assistants. So everybody, you guys know Southwest and JetBlue, like they actually start their people in the call center. If you're a pilot, you start in the call center because they want their pilots to even understand what the call center people are doing, and then they eventually go through and they go through that training. So we actually start, even if you come to us with 3 years of experience, we'll start as a lighting assistant and carry our bags around. And we have it as company culture. We'll make it extra difficult for you. It's kind of like our fraternity. And when they get my job, they know that I have the pro photo bag and I have all my lighting gear, and it's like 2 50-pound bags of stuff, and like girls will show up and guys will show up, and I'm like, there you go. Let's go. We're gonna have some fun. So we make it really difficult intentionally because it's the best weed out of like somebody that has a poor attitude. And that is the one thing that like I cannot work with. In the company, the one thing we cannot work with is a poor attitude. I can teach you how to take pictures. I can teach you how to do every other part of your job, but I can't change your attitude. So we weed that out, and then they work from third to second to first. And the other thing is we just look for people that want to be a part of a team as opposed to like running it lone wolf. So, and it's very easy to identify because like you have to be a certain personality to want to do your own business and your own marketing and your own accounting and your own everything. We just look for the people that aren't really interested in that side of the business. They're the creatives, the artists that want to be a part of a team. And we pay them well, like they're paid well. So they know that they can make a full-time living doing this.
And your email to any of these people who are
Let us know. We're always hiring, so.
It's actually really interesting because that's very similar to what I do. It's just a lot less people, but I have a system where they either start as interns or third shooters, which are unpaid and essentially an on-the-job interview, and work their way up from there. And I'm looking for people who obviously have the talent, know what they're doing, they're professional, and then the attitude.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing you can't change. I had a photographer coming third shooting, phenomenal images. He was so great, but he looked like this the day of. And it looked just like he was gonna kill the bride and groom out of it, you know? And I told him, I was like, look, I love your stuff, it's so great, but you scare people.
counterintuitive.
He's like, oh, I'm just in the zone and all that. I'm fine. Fantastic. Let me give you a second shot. Second wedding, he did the same thing, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I just can't work with you. Like, I can't, and I didn't hire him. So that's one of those things you just can't change.
Yeah, and it's also weird, like you'll get people that come in that will tout how good they are. I've been doing this 5 years, I've been doing this 7 years, I'm a Brooks graduate, I'm this graduate, I'm that. We never will hire them because they already know who, like, they're so set in how they want to do things and in how they want to impress you and what they want to do that they won't listen. And so, like, that is such a key thing of, like, dialing in their attitude before anything else. So, not to say that if you've been to school and everything, that's great. Like, going to school for photography is fantastic, but I think those that are in the industry, when you're applying or if you want to go and work with somebody, everybody knows that you don't need a degree to take a good picture. So that shouldn't be what you're putting, it's like selling the technical game again before you're selling the personality, which is more important.
So for me, I'm lucky. My crew is awesome. They're super talented. So I got super lucky. I weeded it out, with a lot of people. The two things I hire for is hard work and honesty. Those are the two things that I hire for, right? Like, the talent stuff is great. That's high up there, but those are two things I believe you can't teach people: to be hardworking and to be honest. Like, if one of my guys misses a shot, they'll tell me, and I don't have to like look through the footage later and find out like, oh, what's up, right? They'll say, man, I messed up and I didn't do this. I'm like, okay, cool, you told me. Or they dropped something they didn't tell me. That's something you can't really teach people, I don't believe. And then hardworking is like, they're down to carry stuff, they're down to do this, they're down to like, carry 50-pound bags of all my crap, That's the two things I look for. And then of course talent is the third thing. You want someone that's really good, that matches your style, and you can always teach them, you can always train them, you can always like work together and like collaborate and help them grow their knowledge. But those are the top things that I look at because that's super important to me. And the way that I find people is I'll throw out things like, oh, I'm looking for an assistant who wants to come out, and people will come out and I'll kind of see like, oh, they'd be kind of good fit for future gigs, or they may not be a good fit, and that's kind of a nice way to weed things out and no commitment on anybody. But that's how I look at things.
Oh God. I'm bossy. I'm so bossy the day of a wedding. I just need it done. And I first started shooting with my husband. It was like such a great idea. Husband-wife team, yeah, but for the sake of our marriage, it was not going to work. So we decided to change things up. And so I have a regular second shooter who I work with, and she knows like the day of the wedding, there's not really time for please and thank yous. Just get it done and go do this, go do that. And you kind of have to not take it personally because there's a lot of stress on you as a lead photographer to, get A, B, and C. You don't always, of course you want to be pleasant and, charming with your couple, but with your employees, sometimes there's just no time or energy for that. So I prep mine. I tell them, if I come across bossy, just try not to cry. It's gonna be okay. It's all good. I don't hate you or anything, but it's just gotta be like a go mode the day of the wedding. So they just gotta, take direction and go do it. As long as you do it, I'm happy.
Another question about business, video. Video has been obviously growing in the wedding world, much more than I would say even 10 years ago. Maybe something called the 5D Mark II, you might have heard of it. Video component put into that camera. That changed the world, and especially our world at Canon. EOS was launched 5 years ago, and it's been quite an exciting ride. How have you all incorporated, if you have incorporated video, are you hiring out? Do you do it yourself? Do you have video used to showcase your process and use that in your website? Share with us about how you're using motion. Vanessa?
Well, I knew I didn't want to shoot videos, so I just married one. And there's nothing quite as special in a marriage as fighting in the car on the way home from a wedding. But yeah, I have the easy answer. I refer it to my husband. That's not to say I work with him all the time, though. Rarely, actually, do I work with him. So with video, it's like anything else. I just try to be friendly to the people that are around me and work together. And they're vidiots. It's okay.
You have stories. I feel like you're holding back right now.
So many.
It's on camera, that's why.
I said vidiot. That's enough.
Vidiots.
So for me, I do both photo and video. So about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago, I really wanted to learn video, and I found this guy who's amazing, very talented. I literally just emailed him, hey, can I come learn video? I'm a photographer and I just want to learn. He said, okay. So then I carried bags. I got paid with one battery one time, and I didn't even care. For a whole day, he's like, oh, here's a LP E6 battery, right? Cool, right? I'm like, I need a battery.
It's like $50, dude.
Yeah. But the thing is, I didn't care about the pay. I cared about the experience, about watching him, But that was what I did for a long time, almost a year. And then one day he goes, I think you're ready to move on, right? I'm like, maybe get 2 batteries now. No, it wasn't like that. He paid me regular times too. I didn't care about the pay. I cared about the experience. I just wanted, if I was free, I would show up. And I call him Yoda because he's like my Yoda. And I learned about that 9+ months. I learned how he did things, why I shot things, why things are moving. Because video, if you've tried it, it's really different from photography because it's moving. It's not just that, but it's also lighting, it's audio, it's all these things.
I actually recommend it. You probably learn so much about photography by shooting video.
Yeah. And then you're lucky as a photographer if you do video because your composition is there. If it's already pretty good, you're gonna have better composition, you're gonna have better ways to manage things. And also you work with the photographer at the wedding a lot better, right? You won't do that video that gets in the way. When I work with other companies that say Brian hires me for this video and I have another photographer that I don't know, I will always watch out for their, so where they are, so I won't have my head in their way. Or if I'm a photographer and they hire some other videographer, I will see where their safety camera is and I won't stand there on purpose because I don't want my head, I don't want my guys flashing the shot. And so you work with the other vendors and stuff like that, but that's how I really got started with video, and I love video because it's just different, it's fun. That film you make at the end and the couple looks at it or watches it, it's pretty cool to see the reaction.
For me, it's it makes me think of you can be the jack of all trades and master of none. Video, I can't even talk anymore. Video just doesn't speak to me the way photography does. I can do it if I wanted to, but I think that it would take away from my photography and the experience that I create for my clients because I would be just too spread out. So I'd rather do a good job on my photography than spread myself too thin and do a half-assed job on both. Obviously people like Ning and stuff have got it, going on where they can manage that, but I'd rather just stick to one, and that's just a personal choice for me.
Mm-hmm. So a creative question. Back to that. I'm going to have 2 more questions and I'll open it up to the audience. Who do you admire in this industry and why?
I'll go first. That's quiet. There's a lot of people I admire. I'm not gonna, Ning Jirsa. I admire these guys a hell of a lot. Just because the way they've paved things, they're very. You guys all know who Pye is and what they do and stuff. But they're not just great photographers, but they're great people as well. They're educators. They set things high. They want people to grow and learn together. So that's one of my, people that I respect a lot. For video-wise, he's not here. Vincent LaFerre is a good friend of some of ours. He did the 5D Mark II video that changed everything to me. And I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's a DSLR, not like this big camera. And that changed, that's why I wanted to do video. That was like that. I have friends in this room that inspire me. I have a couple back there, my friend Nathan and Will back there. They're photographers, but they're good people. They're great businesses, and I don't know, that's what I look at. People who carry you, that help you when you have trouble. You can still call them. You can still they'll help you out. There's so many other people that have influenced me, but those are kind of just names that pop into my mind a little bit.
For me, it's a few different people because I look at different people and love certain things. Actually, you inspire me with off-camera flash to begin with, so that was one. Jasmine Starr, I've always loved her marketing sense, so I love that. And then my friend Sal Sincata just knows how to kick me in the butt when I need it, so I really appreciate that. That's an inspiration, I think. Just someone telling you when, hey, you kind of stink lately, you need to do something about that. That's inspiration for me. So I grab a lot of different sources. And then Facebook groups. I have local Facebook groups. I mean, just seeing what the people around me are doing photographically in the same spots where I take pictures also. That's inspiring, being able to look at it from a different set of eyes.
Any groups that?
Better Together. That's the one I usually work with. It just happens to be a big group by me.
I opened my mouth, I guess. That was awkward. So there's a lot of people in the industry that I think I look up to for inspiration. Like everyone on this panel, like you go out and you see their work and it's like incredible. Like you're in good company. Like you said, Sal Sincata, Joel Grimes. These are all people, like Jerry Gionis is one of my favorites. And usually like the thing that's synonymous, like Jerry's probably one of the guys that I look up to the most in the industry. Because he's just genuinely a good person. Like that's to me the kind of people that I look up to. But I was gonna say this, if you are gonna hire people and bring people onto your team, hire people that you admire on your team. Because when we look at like our own team, we have this incredible family. I have two of my people, Alex and Jay here, and like they're here at, what is it, 8 o'clock, 8:30 at night. Like our people are in it for this overall vision that we have in the company, and that is something that I admire, because every time we go out and we do something that, like we get back from these shoots, I remember the shot of the bride and groom that are standing on those rocks out there, and people always come back and they're like, that's such a great shot, and in my head I'm thinking of Jay and Alex and Carlo and everybody that was behind the scenes filming it, and my assistant Neil that was on this, like holding a rock, or holding a flash on this rock like in cold weather, and like having a team that you can look up to and say, you guys are incredible at what you do and amazing artists, and everyone's kind of in it to create something better than any of us could do on our own. That's something that kind of excites me every day when I wake up, being surrounded by family.
I'll double it up and say everybody here, basically. I know before I even met Vanessa, I had one of her posing tutorials on my phone bookmarked because I was like, hey, that's useful, I'll bookmark it. And I've used it a couple times, it's just when I feel stuck. I know Pye's videos have gotten me out of a rut when I tried my first wedding with off-camera Pro Photo B1s, and it turned out amazing, only thanks because he put a free video on there. Basically, anybody who puts free education online, I'm like, I admire them, because you don't always have the funds to go out and get like these expensive classes, but there's always free education out there.
But that's the point though, to go buy the classes.
There could be a plug eventually.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
But seriously.
But not really.
Kind of a cheapskate, okay. And then I love Sue Bryce. I love her posing because that's always one of the things I feel I can improve on. And she does these amazing things with your hands, and I'm just like, oh God, she's amazing. And then I'll double up on the Jasmine Star. Her marketing has helped me so much on just the last couple of years. Is just like I've learned so much from her, and so you know, that always helps.
I wanted to ask you real quick is like, you don't have to be famous to be inspired, you know, inspired by. So like, I got friends who are in the industry, like I was saying before, they're hardworking, they're new in the industry. Like my friend Benny back there, he's one of the hardworking guys I know, and he works his butt off, and he's starting out, and it's cool to see him work and like just kick butt and grow and stuff like that. But just all the people that you're around with, like just the group of people you surround yourself with, they should inspire you. They should help push you to be better at what you do, not just business-wise, but also photographer-wise, and they should be able to help you and support you. So if you book this really awesome gig, they're gonna be happy for you. They're gonna support you. They're gonna be there and pick you up. So as a team together, you can just really grow. And so those should be people that really inspire you by the day-by-day basis.
I have, on that note, like I have, you know, like we all go through like personal stuff and whatnot, but if you surround yourself with people that you admire, I have so many days where my team like is literally the reason that I'm going to work. Like they're, you know what I mean? Like if you surround yourself with the people that you just truly inspire you and you admire, and those are the people that you consistently work with, no matter what you're doing, it becomes a reason to continue doing what you're doing when you really just want to stay in bed. And I have many of those days. So.
I think it's really important to educate yourself of the people who came before you. We have an incredible program called the Explorers of Light, and on our website we have a beautiful gallery of those amazing individuals who were photographed. But know our history of photography. It's rich. It started out in the mid-1800s, and many things that we see that we're doing ourselves, we sometimes say, oh my God, isn't this amazing? But guess what? People have been doing this for 50 or 80 years before. So I think it's really important to educate yourself and to learn about people who are Arnold Newman, the master of portraiture. He was an explorer of light actually in the 90s and 2000. He just passed away. He's one of the masters, Joseph Karsh, and one of my inspirations in weddings, who does the decisive moments so incredible, is Joe Busink, a wonderful Canon shooter. So it's really important to constantly surround yourself with amazing, inspiring people who are good people, but know the people who came before you as well, and know your photo history. I think that's really important. So, sorry, I just had to add that in. So what advice would you give to photographers who want to become full-time wedding photographers? You've given incredible amounts of seeds on your business and your inspiration, what you do, but if you could give just a couple of lines and then we'll open it up to the audience, what would you share? Some of the stumbling blocks or some things that to make it easier for that next step for them?
Get laid off.
That pushes you, right?
I would say prepare yourself financially, because the money's not rolling in right away, and you're gonna, even if it does, you're gonna output it and put it back in your business for a while. And then prepare yourself emotionally, because it's gonna take up a lot of your time, a lot of your mental space, and make sure you have a support system around you that understands that, whether it's, you know, your spouse or, you know, your children if they're old enough to get that you're working late at night. Or just people that are there to be your cheerleaders. I think those three things are really what you need. You've got to get in order and put your head down and know at first you're going to work 80 hours a week. You know, you really are, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be.
I think on those lines, I would say, make sure you're actually in love with, you know, like you're going to work 80 hours a week. Make sure you're in love with the process, not the result.
Yes.
Any of you that are in this because you want to just be a photographer, or you want to just make money, or you want to, you're never going to get to that point, because you're not actually in love with the process of getting there. You're just in love with the idea of what this represents.
Have you read this book that I'm reading right now?
The subtle art of not giving enough. Yes.
Want to share with everyone?
Yeah.
It's the subtle art of not giving an F. I actually just finished it.
That's so funny.
And I thought it was, because everyone always says, we always talk about passion, right?
Yes, yes.
But it's passion guided towards the wrong thing. And so when I saw that, I wrote it down. I was like, that's what passion needs to be, is towards the process, not the result.
Absolutely. It's, do you love this enough that this is the thing that you are willing to go through pain for? Yeah.
Love it.
So for me, I would just say start now. Don't waste your time. I mean, if you, especially if you're single, you don't own a home, you don't, you have the most freedom at this point in your life. And even if you were like me, where you got laid off and you got just kind of pushed into it, just go for it, because it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And yeah, you're gonna work 80 hours a week, but you're gonna love doing it, because it's not for anybody else, it's for yourself. There were so many years I wasted doing a desk job that I wasn't in love with. I was kind of, I would say, half-assing life, because it was a paycheck, it was security, it was stable. But, in the end, I wasn't being fulfilled creatively. So doing this for the last 2 years has just been eye-opening on how much more enriched your life can be just being your own boss. And also just give yourself some grace, because you're gonna screw up a couple of times, and it's important to just be kind to yourself when you do screw up, because that's gonna get you through it, and it'll pass.
There's so many awesome things that everyone said here, and it's so true. You have to look at this business. Is it really what you want to do? Or is it cool, or is it because you just think it's something you want to do? But this is like, it's not easy to get further in photography as a full-timer. Like, well, I have to tell you, every winter I'm like stressed out, like, oh my God, like what's gonna happen next year, And you have to ride through these things. Like you have the support team, like you guys were saying. You're gonna be working so many hours a week, but are you ready for it? Like, are you still doing it? And sometimes you just want to you want to go back and do something else, and so I'm gonna work 40 hours a week and just clock out at 5 o'clock every day. But you look at it and says, well, the benefits are, this is what I get to do, and this is what I get to create. Just like you guys were saying, like having support, just having, the ambition to learn the business part. Pye's been saying that a lot, is the business part is what's going to help you succeed further in terms of just being a photographer. Because you can take the pretty pictures, you can do the great imagery, but if you don't know how to market, you don't know how to sell, you don't know how to get it out there, then no one's going to hire you guys. So the business part's a huge part of it. So learn that part of it as well.
Well, and I think some people some of us are stuck on this concept of stability, and I think that is the biggest load of crap in the entire world. I'll be honest, what is stable about, so it's gonna be hard work. The process is gonna suck. I'll just be honest, there's nothing glorious about sitting in front of a computer for 12 hours a day, like when you're first starting the same. But in terms of stability, a lot of us go, well, quitting my full-time job and, I have a stable job. No, you don't. You don't. We all went through the recession. We all know what that was. We saw a third of our friends get laid off from their jobs. And at any point, your boss could tell you tomorrow, hey, you know what, I don't really need you. We buy into this false sense of stability, and in my mind, there is one thing that's stable about running your own business. You control the amount of effort that you're putting into it. I know, that's the one thing I know personally that I can outwork every one of you, even if I can't. I'm gonna feel like I can. So I might not be the most talented, I might not be, whatever it is, but I will outwork everybody else. And that's the one thing I can control, and to me that's more stable than something else. So if this is what you love, jump in, go for it. But just know that the money, all the other stuff, that'll come when you actually love the process, not when you are looking for something else.
Oh, then do education. SRR Lounge Premium, right?
Oh yeah. Buy my shiz.
Education is super important, because if you want to learn stuff, you can go on YouTube, you can go and do these things. But if you have workshops of people that you admire, that you want to take those classes. It's an investment. If you're a dentist, you go to school and you get out of dentistry, whatever. I don't know how the process is, but you get out and you get a dentist job and you make a certain amount of money. But for photographers, what do we get? We don't, you don't have to go to class. You don't have to do this. You can learn on your own. But if you want to get that faster step, you go to learn from mentors. You find people who you want to learn from. Just say, hey, Pye, I want to learn from you. Can you help me? They're like, just reach out to people and just learn and come to these awesome Canon live learning classes that Canon has here as well. A lot of them are free. Some of them are really cheap too. So,
Inexpensive.
yeah, value worthy, right? But yeah, educate yourself and do these things, and it helps you get there a little bit faster than everybody else.
Let's open it up to all of you. I'm sure you've been dying to say. The gentleman in the back. Hi, great to see you here.
When you spoke about super ice, and how do you guys sell against like the shooting burners that she says are bringing down the industry?
Does she say that?
WPI last year.
Yeah, cool.
Who's ever answering it, let's repeat it for the audio.
Oh, he asked, what do you do to compete against shooting burners? And it goes back to what I said about, when people used to make all their own clothes and then the option of having other people make it for them, you just have to sell them all of the soft stuff around it, convince them of all of the other worth. I always tell my clients, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna give you this USB, but your great-grandchildren aren't plugging it in anywhere, and you're likely not going to print more than 10 photos from it. What your kids and your grandkids will find are the wedding album in your, even if it's in your closet. They're going to look every day at that beautiful portrait on the wall. That's going to be the legacy. That's going to be the heirloom, not the little piece of plastic.
It's one of those games that, if you think about any other industry, I love studying business, and those of you that like to study business, every single other industry. The United States was built off the backs of manufacturing, right? That was our thing. But if you've been in manufacturing for the last 30 years, you've been hurting, because every single thing has gone elsewhere. And likewise, there's a lot of studios that focus their business in that exact same way, where they manufacture a product. Don't. Stop manufacturing. You're not a manufacturer. You sell Louis Vuitton bags. You know how many Louis Vuitton bags they make? They make a lot of bags, but when you go in the store, they just show one, right? If you walk in, it's really fun to look at, because you walk in, my wife likes this kind of stuff, but you walk in, okay, but you walk in and that they have 1,000 of those bags available right there, but there's only one on the display. They want to create that sense of experience, right? That sense of exclusivity to it. And that's exactly what you guys should be doing with your photos. If you guys are doing that and you're selling the soft side, and you're selling it not as a piece of production of shoot and burn, you'll be fine. And you're not competing in that realm too. If you went to, this is like saying, so those people that are worried about shoot and burn taking your business, you're not in the right area. Because you wouldn't go, Bentley is not concerned about Hyundai stealing their market share. Does that make sense? So you're in the wrong position. You're positioning your business in the wrong area if you're concerned about shoot and burn people taking away your work.
At the same time, I know the shoot and burn, if you don't know what it is basically just you shoot and you just give the photos over for a set amount of money. It is hard because to get to that level where they hire you for the experience, it takes a while to get there because you're offering a certain experience to your client, but at the same time, the pricing is difficult. Let's say, just for math's sake, there's 5 people that are all $1,000, right? They'll just shoot similar, but this one guy's $900, so a couple. So I'm gonna hire them because they're cheaper by $100. If you can add value that's not tangible in terms of price, like how they're saying by experience or about how the client feels about you, they said, oh, you know what? I'll hire this guy because even though they're all the similar price, this guy gives me the better experience, or I trust this guy, or they have, there's something about them. So it's hard to get on the pricing point when you're starting. Everyone here started out at a certain level. My first one was $600. I split it in half with my buddy, $300 a piece, and I was like, we're rich, But you have to take risks too. If you think you're good enough to be at a certain level, it's a big risk to do a price drop, but try it and see what happens. You might be surprised what happens. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but trying to get there, it's tough. It's not easy, not gonna lie about that, but once you get a little bit higher, just the experience, like these guys are saying, of your client is what really sells.
Well, and there's a flip side to what you're saying. I'm gonna point out all the girls' expensive stuff. I got your Louboutins already. That's an Hermes watch, isn't it? Notice that. It's really nice, really nice. But what I bring this up because people that are buying nice things, I mean, photography is a luxury product, right? And people that are buying luxury products, they don't think in the way that the rest of us. And I'm lower middle class upbringing. I think the exact same way. I think of things as being cheap. I think of all that. The people that are buying your services don't think that way. The people that are buying your services, if they're going to pay $8,000 for a package, they think in the way of, well, if he's $8,000 and he's $10,000, that's a better product because he's $10,000. So there's a very big difference in their mindset where we've lost business because we weren't priced high enough. Does that make sense? So it's reverse mentality. In the early stages of your business, it's going to be fighting the price point, just getting whatever works. We started with free jobs, $250 jobs on Craigslist, $500 jobs. This is what we did, and all three of us would go out and shoot it until we could learn. And at this point, we're losing business because we're not priced high enough. So people think we're not good enough.
I just want to add, it's important, I think, not to compare yourself to other people and how they run their business. You run your business the way you want to run your business and the way that you see that the results are going to come in. Because you're just going to like overwhelm yourself. This person's doing it that way. Maybe that's the right way. There's no right and wrong way. There's what's going to work for you. So, you know, if you shoot and burn and own it. And, you know, if you don't, then you do you.
My question piggybacks off that. First of all, I want to thank each of you for being here, and Jersey Girl Parsippany. So, and thanks for your transparency. I was laid off 3.5 years ago, and I was always a hobbyist photographer. I worked in business continuity in a credit union, way different, IT, all kinds of different stuff. And so when I got laid off, I never even looked for a job. I just went to full-time photography. But because of that, because I needed the income that I had lost, I would do senior portraits and babies and landscape stuff. It took me a little while to do weddings, mostly because when we got married 34 years ago, our photographer was bankrupt 2 weeks before the wedding. We didn't know it. We didn't get wedding photos. I know that nightmare, and I was always in fear of being someone's nightmare with a card failure or something. So it took me years to decide to do weddings. And now I do them, but on my website I represent lots of different things. I've been told that's a bad idea, but because I still need the income and I don't know who might be looking for what, I represent those different things. So I'm wondering, since I still need that income stream in all the different areas, would I be better off to show some things on one website, maybe have another one, or just thoughts on that? If I've had wedding photographers say, you know, if you're not specialized, nobody's going to hire you. Well, they're hiring me, but I'm not at the high end either. I don't think I'm at the super low end. I'm currently charging about $3,000, and my brides are pleased, and my couples are pleased, and most of my business is referrals. But I guess I'm just looking for input on that. I'm not wanting to throw away a portion of the income that I need, but wanting to continue to advance.
I got to answer this one thing because I have this exact experience. I was a second shooter for my husband for a few years. It was very interesting, and he came from the documentary newspaper world. And back then, there was a whole stigma about wedding photographers. You mean those guys that wear the ruffled shirts and tuxedos and go out there? It wasn't cool to be a wedding photographer. So we're talking about 20 years ago. And when Daniel was trying to figure out exactly what you're experiencing in the respect of being knowledgeable and wanting to shoot a lot of stuff, wedding wasn't cool. Now it's a different deal. He had a wedding site, and he had a documentary site, and he had a child site. And so they were found when they wanted that genre, but they weren't necessarily mixed. So that was his success, and that's how he did it. Not to say that that's for everyone, but it worked, and so it might be a way to consider to look specific in each one of those websites and create the design for that specific genre. You guys?
And for example, I just started doing headshots now, and I have a completely separate website. But if I were doing weddings and portraits, I don't know that I would, because the brand would be very similar. So maybe I'd have a splash page that said one to the other rather than like 75 galleries at the top, you know? You could make it work whatever way you want, really.
think
I
it's,
don't know what about you. 'Cause
it's
you
good
do
to
more.
specialize, but I wish I could show like our very first website, because I remember booking like our very first $3,000 client, way back, and I had like birds in our portfolio. Yeah, like, no, it was like Pye Jirsa, and then like, it was like weddings, engagements, other. And then there was like, and if you click into the other, it was like birds and water and like just random, it was terrible. And we, like, our post-production was all, I remember my friend calling me up and he's like, so you don't think like post-production needs to be like uniform? I'm like, dude, no. Are you kidding me? And now I'm like preaching it. But we booked our first clients without doing any of this stuff. And so like, Vanessa's totally right. If you're, who talked about personality earlier?
I
Like,
think everybody.
okay, Oana, absolutely right. People book because they came in, and the guy actually mentioned the $3,000 one. He's like, yeah, I'd really like that you had pictures of other things on your website. Like, not just me. I was like, that's so odd. But Justin booked them, and it was like our first $3,000 client. So like, I kind of feel like there's no right way to start your business. Granted, at this point, Ning Wong photography, if we get into commercial work, is gonna separate the two. Because it wouldn't make sense at this point to like commingle the brands and stuff like that. But when you're starting out, like, just go shoot shiz. That's like the one quote I want you guys to take away from it. Just go shoot shiz. Shiz.
The shiz.
Sorry, I use
PG-13.
Got it.
fake curse words,
Like,
but
oh, Atlanta.
yeah, I don't think it's.
You went on my site and saw that bird, didn't you?
No, I know the exact picture on my site that I'm thinking of. Like,
Thank you.
it was a silhouetted bird on my site too.
Mine's a reflection, it's pretty cool.
It's sequel, not a sequel. I had that.
Your branded logo.
Thank you for that.
I just want to add to that, everything they said was great, but for me, when I rebranded, I thought to myself, what's my favorite thing to photograph? And for me, it was always the bride and groom portraits on the wedding day. I live and breathe for that 45-minute window, if that, because that's my favorite thing to shoot. So maybe 90% of my work on my Instagram and Facebook pages, it's just going to be that, because that's what I want to bring in. And so I give out what I want to bring in. And I still do a bunch of family sessions. Christmas time is always busy. I still do lots of other kinds of shoots, like seniors and things like that, but I don't showcase that as my main thing because I'll have a separate gallery for it. Like, if you want to see a sample of my work, here you go. But 90% of the time, they'll book me because they've had a history with me already, and they already trust me, and I've done their family photos over the years. So they just come back to you anyways, and they'll still refer friends who will still book you off your portrait work, from weddings or that kind of thing.
Showing what you want to book is huge.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Any big questions?
Oh, there's questions over there.
Okay. Oh.
Go ahead.
How do you help engage referrals from your clients? Do you have any method of asking them or engaging some kind of technique to do that?
I used to do some sort of, it wasn't a referral program, but if they referred, I would give them a 16 by 20 canvas or something as a thank you. And I saw no difference from when I stopped. The thing that made them brag about me was all the extra overachieving kind of stuff I did, like the same day album, or I send them little gifts here and there. That's the kind of stuff that worked, at least for my clients.
You never actually ask them, you just perform with excellence.
Yeah, but for example, seniors, I know senior referral programs are huge and work really well, but just for me, I was just making sure that I gave them the best that I could, and then I'm a bride.
Doing a great job is super important. That's how you get a referral, right? But literally just ask, like, hey, do you know anybody's can, like, just ask them. Like, they might say, oh yeah, you know what, my coworker just got engaged. Like, oh, let me get her email, let me talk to her. So just, if you don't ask, it's gonna be automatic no. It's like a sales background, right? So like, just ask, and the worst they can say is no. But to say, yeah, I got somebody, like, I just texted some bride, say, hey, I have this thing going on. Anybody's engaged as well. I'm like, well, yeah, I got 2 friends who are, I'm like, yeah, bring them over, let's do it,
Yeah.
Let's ask.
Okay.
Any question over there?
Is there a specific gear right now that gets your creative juices going, like a new lens or bag or off-camera flash modifier, anything like that?
So gear that doesn't get creative juices?
Anything Canon is awesome.
Yeah. That 85-1.2 that you're dying for?
Well, so I have a 201.8 L, right?
200.
Oh, the old school.
Yeah.
I got that. I got a really good deal, but it's I don't bust out a lot, but when I do, I'm like, dang man, I should use this a lot more. And it's fun, but it's freaking super heavy, right? You know, but that lens right now, for me at least, is pretty fun.
Ning, be very careful with that lens. We don't make parts for it anymore.
I baby it, trust me.
I like my gels for my lights right now, messing around with color and stuff.
When I get bored, I have a rule of just, I put crap in front of my lens. Like, so I'll just go to the
It's always
craft
brown
store.
photos.
Like, we have special effects courses that like, I'm just putting, like, that's all I do is just put crap in front of my lens. So like, after I get the standard shots and like everything that I need to get, I'll go to the craft store and I'll literally like look for crap to put in front of my lens. And then I'll carry it with me and like, oh, this creates a cool effect. I'll put flashes and I'll point them in my lens, I'll do. So that's what I like to do, to like test and try things out.
This may not be considered gear, but Ning got me onto atmosphere aerosol. I used it at my last wedding, and it's pretty cool. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is like the coolest thing ever. It's like spraying it all over the place, and there's some good effects. You just gotta watch out that it doesn't end up looking like a fart or something, you know? But besides that, it looks really nice, and like light streaks and stuff like that. It's pretty.
Where do you get that stuff?
That's
Order online.
aerosol.com. I have a promo code.
Oh yeah, use my.
Like Ning 10. 10% off.
Not Ning 20? Gosh.
Oh, is it 20? I don't know. Just try both. Ning free, right? No, just they gave me a code to give to people, so I just like, I put up and I do classes.
I love the tilt shift lens. That's my
That's a
favorite.
fun lens. The 90 tilt shift.
Yeah, the 90 tilt shift's a great portrait.
Oh,
Good stuff.
Oh, that bridal picture was actually with that lens.
Oh, really? I love it.
I just
Okay,
thought of-
we're gonna continue on his question. What cameras do you shoot with?
I'm still 5D Mark III. I love it. I hate change. I hate learning new gear. I'm not techy like that. So if it's working for me, I'll use it till the day I die. But you know, it does its job. It's a workhorse like all the 5Ds have been. So you know, I'd still be comfortable shooting wedding with 5D Mark II just because I know the settings. I know how it's going to work for me. But that's what I'm using now.
The 1DX2 it's back there. I think she has it right there. I love that camera to death. It's freaking amazing. It's not cheap, but it does so much stuff for you. Like, to learn everything is like a crazy long to learn everything. But the video on it is amazing too. I buy stuff that I can use for more purposes because it's cost effective and it saves a little money. But that camera is the best.
Yeah, I have 1DX1. I'll get the 2.
I have the 5D Mark IV, but literally any of these Canon cameras is going to work totally fine. But I love the 4 because it fits in the way that I shoot. Like I do a lot of directing and stuff when I shoot. And it's like I have my camera down the whole time, and then you go onto the new Live View. Have you guys used the Live View? It's so ridiculously awesome. Go play with it.
It is.
Because like in my review of it, that's all I talked about was like the Live View autofocus with the dual pixel. I'm such a geek. But like all you do is you like direct and do everything, and you come to your camera and and it nails the focus like every time. It's so good. So
Yeah. I'm not a geek and I love the 5D4 and doing that. And I converted D60. Not the 60D, the D60. That's how old. Infrared, black and white, and stuff. Yes, sir.
Just to go along with that, what range of lenses do you use and which is your favorite, the long or the short?
I'm like Vanessa. I use mostly primes. One of my favorites that is not typically a portrait lens is the 24 and the 35, like either one. But if you can get good with those lenses, they create a lot of distortion. But if you learn how to frame your subject and use the distortion to like create unique effects, then you get images that look kind of. The cool thing about those lenses is that it forces you to be in the action, like you're up close. So your images feel like a sense of kind of emotion in the actionness.
Being there.
Yeah, but it has a very unreal look to it, especially when you're shooting wide open. Really fun. 85 is fantastic. The 90 tilt shift is one of my favorites.
Yeah, all primes ranging, usually the day of, it's 24, 35, 50, 85, 135, all primes. The 85 1.2 is my favorite, but I use the 50 1.2 the most because it's a fast focusing, very versatile, shoot anything with it. Yeah.
I think I own like every lens ever made. It's random.
Thank you,
I mean,
Ning, I'll get
Canon
another
uses it.
paycheck.
Yeah, no, I love, I'm a gear whore, I love this stuff, right? Like, my wife will tell you our garage, I'm not gonna say where I live. We got a lot of stuff, right? I love, for some reason, it's a love-hate, but the 100 macro lens, especially when you're shooting like range shots and like, if you ever shot range shots with me, you'll know we're doing some stupid stuff, right? Like put stuff in front of the lens, or like, oh, photo booth prop, let's use that, They're like, all of a sudden you shoot it, you're like, oh man, that looks pretty freaking good, But that lens, I don't know why, it's a love-hate thing with that thing, and I use that for a lot of bridal prep too. Like you should get the close-up shots, and you do portraits from far away. You don't want to be in their face, and you don't want a big lens to like do things. But I use prime a lot too. But that's what I like.
If I could shoot at 1.2 all day, every day, that's what I would shoot at. So my 50 is pretty much on my camera most of the time. And then for my lazy side, I have the 24-70 just because it's convenient if I need to suddenly go wide or suddenly zoom in. So between those two, those are usually on my camera the whole day during the wedding.
Next one?
Yes.
Do you guys carry multiple cameras on you with different lenses, or do you have a method for that?
Depends if I have a third assistant or not that day. So if it's a bigger wedding where I'm bringing in lights and things like that, then I'll have a third assistant and they're in charge of gear, and I'll just have one on my shoulder and shoot one on my hand.
The way I do it is I always have 2 cameras on me, and I use a undefined bag.
We don't make them anymore.
I know. I bought it when they were
Appreciate it.
A what bag?
undefined. Don't buy it anymore because they don't make it. No, it's a waist shooter. It basically goes in their belt like an awesome fanny pack, right? And it goes. And I have 2 lenses in there, and I have 2 lenses on 2 camera bodies. And that's how I go. And as a big guy, I can carry a lot, so it's easy for me to run around all this weight.
Okay.
Like every day.
I shoot with one body, and I have what are the money makers, right? That's what they call those, or the black rapid strap. I like that too, and then my assistant carries everything else around for me.
I'm one camera guy too. I have my backup, but I just shoot one camera. I like things simple.
Mm-hmm. Do you have your other lenses already attached to those bodies that are being handed to you, or do you set
No,
those?
no. I really enjoy taking the lens on and off. I feel like I'm loading a gun. And
That sounds good for a wedding. That's
That jersey.
Yeah. I did 2 bodies, 3 lenses.
Okay.
And then I'm changing, like you said, with a bum bag.
There's a question over there, Amy. Behind the light. Yeah.
Yell it out.
Yeah, I know it's kind of hard to see me with that light, but I guess away from the whole gear thing, have you ever gone home after a session and realized, like, man, I sucked that day? And how do you
Every day.
it's like I didn't bring my A game, and so how do you fix that for the next one, and how do you pick yourself up again?
That's a good question.
I feel that all the time.
no, literally every shoot mostly.
Yeah. Like there's, but you get to a place where like I feel like my suck is still pretty awesome. Like, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Because this is what happens. You'll leave the shoot and you'll be like, gosh, dang, that was like, I could have done things so much better. And you'll feel like really down about it. And then what always happens is like, I'll pull up the shoot later on and look at it and I'm like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was.
And the way he said that sounded a little cocky, but I don't think that's what you meant.
I didn't mean to be cocky. It's just.
Well, no, it's just that usually the pictures that you're taking, especially if it's a wedding, that's the first time they've had their professional photos taken, and your crappiest photo is probably the best photo they've ever had taken of them to date.
Mm-hmm.
So their expectations are like, meh, yours are here, and then you have a bad day, you still gotta meet there.
Like, I feel like that a lot too. Like afterwards, I'm like, oh man, I could have done this better. But the great thing about that is that no matter how many years you're into it, you should always be learning from what you've done. So like, if you think you did something better at that shoot you just finished, remember that for the next shoot you do, and just learn from it. Because like you guys know, everyone makes mistakes, but learning it and fixing it and just progressing from that is the best way to make yourself better. So you don't suck as bad and all that stuff. But just keep learning, and just if you don't feel you do good enough, then just make it better next time.
Well, I feel like if you're coming away, tell me if this, okay. If you're coming away from your shoot and you go and you show your friends, I feel like if someone comes to me and they want to say how awesome it was, it always sucks. Like if you're coming away from your shoot and you're like, oh my gosh, I just killed that thing. Oh my gosh, I'm so good. I guarantee the work is not that good. That's because you don't have the ability to like, you should be critiquing yourself. You should come away from the thing going, these are all the things that I could have done better. You should also know that nobody else can see it. That's the main thing, is that nobody else can see it. And because that's, I think, where we get ourselves down a lot.
You can always get better. You can always find something to be better at.
I know I'm my own toughest critic. I've gone home in tears after family sessions with like a 2-year-old, and you know, it's just a hot mess. And I deliver the photos, and the mom's like, "Oh my God, we love these. They're the best photos you ever had." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" But I gotta remember though, that I'm looking at it from a photographer's point of view. Your client's not looking at it with the same eyes. They just see their kid in one photo smiling, and they're happy and thrilled. You know, it's always worse in your head than it is in reality. So you know, just take a step back and breathe it out.
Case in point, I'm gonna ruin this photo for you. The photo with the couple on the rocks, it bugs the crap out of me because the dress is not placed right. And every time I look at it, I just go look at the dress and I'm like, that means bugs the shit out of me. Now when you go look at it, that's all you're gonna see.
Get another question, Paul.
I guess to add on to that question is, you know, sometimes like you're setting up a shot and you have like the lighting, everything set up, and you think it's gonna be epic, and something always screws up, like something messes up, and you take the shot, you miss focus or whatever it is. Have you ever gotten those shots and and the clients know you like set up that shot and they expect that shot, but then you missed it? Like how do you guys explain to the client?
That wasn't that good anyways.
You bleed.
Yeah.
I mean, because I do a lot of off-camera lighting stuff, and you in your mind you have this epic shot, like, oh, the sunset in the clouds. You set it up and then you shoot it, and then like, an example is we just shot a wedding together. It was a pier, right? And there was like the water and the sunset, and I shot it. I had OCF going on, and I'm like, I thought it's gonna be great. I go home, and then miss this big 50 spray painted on this thing. I'm like, oh man, you can take it out in Photoshop, but you know, it's like you're gonna mess up, you're gonna do things, but you tell your client, like when you're doing that, I tell them, you know, we're gonna try something different. We're gonna try this. Let's see how it turns out. And I say that it's kind of like cover your butt, I guess, you know. But not everything's gonna be turning out great, but just try it. Doesn't hurt.
Do your clients honestly remember?
Sometimes they do. Mine, I have
Well,
had my memory.
our client's a little drunk. The sunset time, they should be drinking. Sometimes they do. More of the times the moms remember, right? The mom's like, oh, where's this photo? You're like, oh, you know, but sometimes. Right.
You guys talked about, or I was talking about, you know, loving the process. I know, like, we had talked about Toggle. You mentioned, like, Logstomp for putting this stuff together the same day. What are, like, some processes that you guys couldn't live without? So I'm talking about, like, Grammarly, Toggle, Logstomp, like, things like that. Like, one thing, if you had to choose one thing that just, like, makes your life easy.
And explain what he just said to people who don't know that stuff.
So what are like actual tools that we're using to kind of make our lives easier in like
Kind of more
software-based
like when you're
apps?
sitting in front of the computer or having your team work in front of the computer, that kind of thing.
Template emails, kind of like, I forget, it's a Gmail plugin, it's free. You can save like kind of template stuff. I mean, if you use like 17.5 to Sprout Studio, I'm in Sprout, and you can have those templates and stuff. Having those ready to go is really handy, because if a bride hits you up on email saying, I want to book you, or I'm interested, you can send them stuff right away. That really helps out, because speed, when it comes to replying, is
Is that one, like, you would type book and then it'll just?
No, that's Text Expander. That's
Text
a
Expander.
better.
That's a Mac.
Yeah.
I'll look it up. I'll send it to you. I forget what it is. It's a plugin for Gmail. I forget. What's up?
Canned response.
Yeah, canned response. That's it. Yeah, canned response. If you're on Gmail, it's a plugin. And you just literally just click the little arrow, and you can find your thing, click it, and then customize the second.
Your question?
I wonder how you address, or do you address, say, family members that come shoot over your shoulder, and you know, I mean, if you set it up ahead of time and explain to your couple why that's a bad idea, and then it's happening, do you let it go? Do you address it?
I just go, put your camera right here. Just place it right here and we'll shoot like this.
Has a really pointy elbow.
Yeah. Turn the flash backwards sometimes.
Have done that. I will either tell them to leave sometimes. It depends if it's disruptive. It's the family photos and everyone's looking the other way, so I can say, okay, I embarrass them a little. It's like, I'll wait till you're done. Are you done? You know, and then that helps because I can't have the eyes looking everywhere. But I've also just flat out either said myself or told my assistant, like, oh, I'm sorry, this is our time with them and you need to go away. That's it. You can be nice about it.
Yeah, diplomacy is the best source.
I usually don't, respond to them. I mean, when they're taking a picture, I'll do the same thing. I'll wait and I'll say, let them get their shot first, and then they'll get their shot. But honestly, like, if you're a professional in your craft, and maybe I am kind of cocky, but I kind of like it when they take their photos because mine always look better.
Right.
So.
My concern was, like Vanessa said, when you have the eyes going two places.
Right.
And that's where
Just
I
wait
kinda
till they
go,
finish, just wait
okay.
till they finish.
And that's what I've done, but I just wondered, is that an okay thing?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah, I literally like, if they're doing an iPhone on the side, I'm like, okay, get in there, I'll take their iPhone, I'll tell them to get in the shot, I'll just take it. Now they're done, they're happy, and I just get that out of the way, depending if it's just time. If there's no time, you gotta
Yeah,
go.
then I'm
You know,
with
but
you.
if there's time, you're like, whatever, we can do it, you know. I just do it because it just makes life easier, instead of saying, no, you can't be here, and like, be like crazy, and then they'll get really mad, you know.
Yeah, oftentimes the couples themselves will tell you, like we do a lot of Indian weddings and the families take ridiculous amounts of photos themselves. So the couples will actually say, hey, if other people want to take photos, just tell them no. And so we just go based on what they say, but if it's being intrusive, you for sure need to step in.
For me, I usually play it by ear, but I'm a germaphobe. I do not want to touch anybody's cell phone, so I'll be like, all right, get your shot, everybody with the phones, all right, phones down, and everybody look here, that kind of thing. But you also kind of have to play it by ear because it's all about the experience that you're creating for a couple. So if a guest takes you as being rude, you know, then that's not going to go well with you long term because no one's going to refer you. Oh, there's that guest, you know, because you know at the reception they're all going to go talk crap on you if you were rude to any of the guests. So you kind of have to play it by ear. Is it worth telling them to stop taking photos? And sometimes they'll just backlight things on purpose because I know everybody's got their camera out and I know they're not going to get the same shot I do. But that's how I look around it.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
At what point in time have you ever come across, like, I need to change my editing style? And if you do change your editing style, do you hang on to aspects of your old editing style?
I think it's more of an evolution, right? There was one case where we had a client come in that wanted a filmic look, and we actually created, so at that point, we had Lininger's signature, and we broke it off and created Lininger's Classic, which was filmic. We actually created an entire post-production process just for that. But for the most of the time, it's just a slow evolution over time that kind of gradually changes. I think any dramatic changes are scary. Because like if your clients are coming to you, like treat your business like In-N-Out. And if you just one day go to In-N-Out and you're like, not in every sense, like don't go making burgers, that's weird. But in the sense of like the product that they're selling, if you go to In-N-Out one day and you're like, hey, I'd like a double animal style protein, whatever, and then they go, oh, we don't have that anymore. You're gonna be pretty pissed off. I would be pissed off. No. So slowly change things over time as opposed to like dramatic changes.
All right, 2 more questions and then we have to wrap it up. Go ahead, JD.
End games or exit strategies.
Buy a lottery ticket every week. $1 a week, that's all it takes.
$1.
For me, it's just pursuing the next things I love, and maybe eventually one thing will lead to another, and I'll start doing something else. I don't think I'll ever stop doing photography, though. But retirement plans, we should all be saving for retirement.
Save your money,
Yeah.
buy property.
Did I see one hand over here? Yes.
First, I want to thank you all for your honesty, and it was really impressive to hear your guys' teamwork and your respect of each other. Everybody always thinks photographers are always trying to, one up. Amy, you've done a great job tonight. But I just wanted to say, do you ever go through a process where you take an outsider to come look at whether it be your business side or your photography, just to give you, whether criticism can be good or bad, and it's just one person's opinion? I didn't know if that was part of your process, every couple of years, or just have an outsider look in.
It's part of my continual process, just with all like inspirational people. I'll ask people to look at what I'm doing, parts of it.
I feel like
Continually.
your best critiquers are also your clients.
Yeah.
If they stop paying for your work, you better figure some shiz out. But so long as they're coming in, I mean, they're going to be the people that are, we always want to impress each other. Like I feel like every time we post something on the internet, every time we do that kind of thing, like, photographers, we want to impress each other and always show our best foot and like doing all that kind of stuff. But in the end, the people paying you money is really who you should be aiming towards. And whoever that is, whoever that audience is where you should take your critique from, not anybody else.
I'm curious if anybody does exit surveys of their clients. You do?
Oh, that's-
Yeah, I toyed about doing that, and emotionally, I don't think I can handle it quite yet, but it's probably really good.
No, that is a
We do
great-
surveys.
You do surveys?
You guys will all get one at the end of this class too, so, and a little discount for future purchases. Last question.
Sorry, this is like backing up. If you felt like you've exhausted all your effort in trying to get clients to see you and you've adjusted your prices, what can you tell someone to do that has a zero balance for marketing? I have like nothing left.
Facebook is free, Instagram is
Fired
free.
in October, so I'm like done. This is it.
I go back to that concept test shoot thing. That's free. Put your money in your time goes into it.
Yeah.
Do that. That gives you networking. That gives you opportunity to show your work, talk about it. The thing is that you can look busy. The whole goal is to look busy, right? And you look at a business, like nobody wants to go to the party that only has 2 people in it, kind of thing. When you go to a club, they put a line out the door. I'm not a big club goer, but I've seen them. I've seen a club, you know. There's a line going out the door, and I would imagine that they're doing that to create a sense of like, this is buzzing, this is cracking, they want people to party there. So you can create that sense with like literally 1 or 2 test shoots, and you save your images up and you actually release them over time. And just keep doing that. Get out and shoot.
That's what I'm doing right now.
It's your best way.
I think also going out to like networking events or mixers or like events to beat your face in front of people. I know firsthand people that I see at events, if they reply to me, they wanna like do something, like assist. I'm like, that guy was pretty cool at that event, I remember him. Let's give him a chance, right? Just getting your face out there, collaborating with like makeup artists or like other people and say, hey, let's do a shoot, and you just do a shoot, right?
Yeah, I'm doing all that right now.
Like, that's how a lot of people
I'm a second shooter
start.
for like 3 other photographers.
Second shoot, yeah, just experience, get things, just keep doing it. And then, you know, the harder you work, like we're saying, is just, it's gonna get better. And then the great thing about SoCal is that SoCal photographers in general are very supportive, very helpful, because we have a big market. We have like, and I tell Pye, just save 25 for me. That's all I want, right? He does like 1 million weddings, you know, but like we have so many people getting married at destination and stuff like that. And in general, like Facebook groups that are like good ones
They're
are
not all
like,
supportive.
yeah, they help you, you know?
Yeah, there's a lot,
Oh, you don't
they're
think-
so mean.
You gotta join the different ones.
Find the nice one.
You know, start, yeah, I mean, there's gonna be haters, there's gonna be people gonna be jealous. There's gonna be people that try and bring you down and say,
Oh,
oh,
yeah,
she
I'm
did that.
totally bummed right now. My
You know?
friend dragged me here. I did not even want to come.
Well, hopefully
Glad
she's
she-
in
I'm so
there.
glad she dragged me.
Did your friend
I'm
leave?
so glad.
But yeah, just, it's tough, not gonna lie, it's tough, but friends like that dragged you here, she supports you, I bet, so
That's it.
work with her.
And you got a whole family, Canon family right here. That's
We
go to
bringing
the
it all
Canon
together.
events.
What
We'd
a
love to have you
great,
in our community
what a
too.
great way to end the night. Thank you so much.